Hi everybody, welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. I am Aurora. I walk on a treadmill while I do my classes, and I also work with these protective force field emitting crystals. This is level 2, lesson 14. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this lesson or if I was going to skip over it because I've been kind of feeling like get to the meat and potatoes and the stuff that's really, really important. This lesson is all about energetic hygiene. So I recorded this from the advanced lessons about 10 years ago at the request of people who were in my classes. They're like, tell us about energetic hygiene, kind of like the practicalities, offering practical information about how best to maintain one's energetic force field. And I had to go back over this last night and kind of reassess how much of what I originally shared is still relevant and how much do I have to share totally new stuff. So I didn't even send out my notes from last night. Did you guys notice that? It's not just because I was sending out my Zoom links in the middle of the night after having watched many YouTube videos, because I was just joking with Charlie B about all the different things that I like load my mind up with before I go to bed. Not just because I stayed up late being naughty and watching YouTube and then sent out something that said that we were meeting on Thursday instead of on Wednesday, because you can tell sometimes my brain does not function accurately when I'm overtired. But also because I had to really kind of say, what do I want to talk about today? So spent the morning upgrading and updating what I want to be able to share with you. So, and also how does this relate to flying rainbow lasagna? Because that's why I wasn't sure if I was even going to delve into this topic, if it was worth it, or if I should just stay focused on lasagna. So I'm going to talk about energetic hygiene as it relates to the magical activity that is known as flying rainbow lasagna. First of all, let's talk about flying rainbow lasagna as a magical activity, and welcome. There are some wonderful new people who are just now finding my work, and so welcome. This is offering you a little bit of an intro, even as we are more than halfway through the semester. But I talk about the flying rainbow lasagna as analogous to the fruiting body of a mushroom. When you see a mushroom sticking up out of the ground, what you really are looking at is the culmination or the end result. Pardon me, I need to drink a little bit. My wonderful structured water. This is my remote control for the walking machine. End result of all of the magical, consciousness cultivating, supernatural, and miraculous activities. So the flying rainbow lasagna that you see, imagine you see this in the woods, walking along, and then you see lasagnas growing out of the ground, or wherever you might find them in their natural habitat, is the fruiting body. So when you see a mushroom, what you are really looking at is the visible tip of the iceberg of a much larger, energetic, and biological process that is going on underneath the soil. When you do flying rainbow lasagna, what you are doing is the visible tip of the iceberg behaviorally, putting down my stuff so I can gesture here, behaviorally, in terms of what your DNA is doing from the other levels of cultivation, self-cultivation, and reality cultivation that you are doing at other times of your life. So, during a portion of your day, whatever, 45 minutes or 1 hour, you might actually do the flying rainbow lasagna dance. That is the visible tip of the energetic iceberg for the activities that you are doing all throughout the rest of your day. So now we're going to talk practicality. That's what today's lesson is all about. Practical behavioralisms of cultivating your energy and keeping your energy clean. That's what it is to have energetic hygiene in order to foster and facilitate greater levels of flying rainbow lasagna. So flying rainbow lasagna is a supernatural activity. It is a miraculous activity. It is a magical activity. It is actually not something that is very easy to schedule and to say we will do this on this day at this time, because it arises spontaneously, and it is something that you do at your cosmic inner mandate. Something inside of you says, get going now, and you're like, I'm going to do this now, regardless of whether it's convenient for other people or other circumstances, much in the same way that, like, if you're a woman having a baby, you're like, this baby's coming now, throw everything out the window, forget about everything else, this is happening now. And that is how I live my life in terms of doing the flying rainbow lasagna dance, activity, and rectification force field. Like, when it's time to do that, drop everything, it's time to do that. And what I also do throughout my whole entire daily existence is cultivate optimum circumstances to facilitate spontaneous lasagna-ing. Let's talk about that. What does that look like? So first of all, when I talk about energetic hygiene, what am I talking about? First, I'm talking today about something that is not going to be perceptible or validated by the objective materialist realm, because objective materialism literally cannot perceive this type of energy that we're talking about. So it is not energy of, let's say, body heat. It is not energy of dollars in your bank account. It is not energy of, let's just name another type of energy, how many pounds or kilograms you weigh. It is not any of those measurable features. We're talking about a type of energy that cannot really be perceived by the objective materialist experiencer or measured by. So it's a conversation that whole worldview, perspective cannot manage, cannot have a grasp upon anything. Just throw that all out the window, okay? That this is not for scientific rationalists. And also, then we must recognize, as we're throwing all of that out the window, that we're now in the territory that is condescendingly spoken about as woo, W-O-O, woo, the unmeasurable, somewhat attitude-filled, and sometimes questionably commodified. When people talk about woo, they might be talking about a book or something like that that's got a lot of unsubstantiated assertions. But also, I would say woo, the category of woo, or the valid critique of woo, might be if someone says, I have this magical contraption, it does a thing, I can't tell you what it does, but it does something, pay me a lot of money for it. That's woo, right? And also, here's another thing, I perform some kind of a service for you. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I'm doing something to your energy field and I'm affecting you in some way. Give me money for it. That is also questionable woo. So you understand why woo is used sometimes in a cautionary or condescending manner, because the rationalist skeptic viewpoint says, hey kid, watch out, because someone might be stealing your money by saying that they're selling you magic beans, but they're not really magic beans, or your beans are not magic enough. All right? But all of those cautions aside, there's something that is very real, that is the supernatural. So some aspects of charlatanry take advantage or exploit your desire or expectation to perceive and interact with the supernatural, and you would want to avoid those things. However, there's very, very real, valid, hey, Rainbow Body, good to see you, very real, very valid, supernatural energy. That is a very real thing. So all of that now kind of going out the window, invalidations and critiques aside, there's a very real form of supernatural energy. And when I say supernatural, again, it is beyond the energy that is measured by rational skeptics. Energy that might be like your body heat or how much you weigh or even neurological signaling. Something else that is going on. And what I'm going to teach you about in our class today is how to navigate, how to utilize that energy, how to recognize that energy. What you're really learning about right now is the care and feeding or energetic hygiene of your light body. This is my little thing over here. Here. Just have to hold it very gently. These are very breakable sculptures. But this is what your light body is shaped like. It's made out of time, timelines, abstract possibilities. This is made out of abstract energy. This is really what we're talking about. So one of the things that would be considered woo in condescension would be chakra alignment. Like, oh, your chakras are out of alignment. I will realign them for you in some way, like some kind of questionable activity like that. However, what is valid is chakras are a real thing. Your time, body, and timelines are a real thing. And stuff that you do affects the behavior of time, your timelines, and your time body. But whether or not another person can have an impact on your alignment of your chakras or where you're going in time space is the thing that is somewhat questionable. So we're talking about the energetic hygiene of your time body, and this also relates directly to emotional energy. So I'm going to talk about some things that you might have intuited or experienced from your daily life but never articulated, and maybe not found validation from regular society, but you will find validation from me and other people who are psychically perceptive. So the first thing is to recognize, should I even bring up one of these little pictures? I squint and scroll sometimes. Let me just bring up one picture for us for class. I should have had this already ready. Hold on. Get a picture for you just because I gotta find the picture. I gotta press a button. Here's a picture, here's a button. Okay, no, none of those things. Go to here. Energy fields. So your energy field is all of this. So what is outlined in white is your anthropomorphic, human-shaped body that is made of cells, and that I call your somatic cellular body. And everything else that is in rainbow colors around here is your energy field. It is comprised of time, possibilities, and probabilities. And the orange layer here is the layer of emotional energy, but please comprehend and live in the truthfulness that your emotional layer of your body does not just reside below your navel, in your guts and your reproductive organs. Your emotional envelope surrounds your whole entire body, all right? And when we're talking about energetic hygiene, largely what we are talking about is or are emotional energy residues. The force fields that are left behind, or imprints in the fabric of time-space, or waveform distortions in the fabric of time-space that are left behind by your interaction, could be either with a positive emotional experience or a negative emotional experience. Could be either one. So one example would be like, here's my chair right here in the background with lots of sweaters piled on top of it. And if I sit in my chair and I have like a bad phone conversation and someone says something to me that's very emotionally upsetting, then I hang up the phone. That energy of emotional distress is present in that time-space coordinate. And next time I sit down in that chair and I look at my armrest and the coffee table and my viewpoint of the world from sitting in that chair, what's going to happen is I'm going to reverberate back to or exacerbate those negative emotional feelings and the pattern that was left as an imprint. The way that a sculptor leaves an imprint in wet clay, my emotions would leave an imprint in the fabric of space-time reality, and next time I go to sit in that place, I sit in my imprint, and that I can feel and access again that feeling state of whatever I was experiencing when the person talked to me on the phone and told me something bad. Same thing with something good. What if I'm sitting in that chair and my dog is on my lap and I'm having a wonderful moment and feeling totally happy and all is right with the world? I also get an energetic imprint, positive emotional imprint from sitting in that place. And then if I want to access that positive emotional imprint again, I sit in that chair and I look at the world from that perspective, and my body, this is like a memory that is in your body, not a memory that is stored in your cognitive, intellectual awareness. It's very, very big stuff, because this is a memory that is stored in your body position. So it has to do with like if you are, again, like if you're in a seated position, if you're in a standing position, if you're balanced on one foot, if you're walking on a treadmill, that's part of the memory. And you know what else can be a part of the memory? Like right now I'm wearing this dress. It's like the feeling of the waistband. of your dress, your tactile senses. Sometimes, I don't know if you're this way, but I'm like, I can feel my socks. Like, I feel my waistband of my dress. I feel my socks, or like if you're wearing a scarf. Like that also is part of the tactile sense memory. Aromas, part of tactile sense memory. All the things that you're seeing and feeling that are beyond your intellectual awareness are all part of how you access the memory of it in an emotional memory. All right. I know I'm laboring to describe all of this to you. Let's just synopsize. How does this relate to freedom? Why is this important for you to know about? Because the things that you are fighting against for your freedom absolutely exploit and hijack your emotional energy. They intentionally destabilize you, perturb you, send you way off track so that they can siphon energy off that is usually negative emotional energy. I don't think we would have so much of a problem with these pesky occupiers of the interstices if they wanted us to be in joy all the time. Let's just really consider this, whatever logical facetiousness for just a moment. What if there were, interdimensional beings, and they're like, we need these humans to be happy all the time, instead of poking them with pitchforks so that the humans feel bad and sad, and then they emit, this type of food for us. What if we poke them with happiness tools and make them emit joy all the time? How would you feel? And would we have so much of a problem with it? I propose that we would feel differently and not have so much of a problem with it. Not that I'm, of course, inviting that inverted reality structure, but it just can be fun to consider the inversion of reality structures. But largely, your negative emotional responses to stimuli are being incepted and exploited. And the energy that is being harvested from your perturbations is being used to sustain an organized presence that is completely anti-human, anti-life, anti-God, not good stuff that you want. So recognizing the mechanics of how your emotions are destabilized and emotional energy is used and exploited will help to bring you towards freedom. And doing energetic hygiene will also help you to be able to move more easily towards ascension. So you're protecting your stash, making sure that no one else is going to steal your energy from you and misappropriate it and feel elevated artificially. And also you are being able to navigate more effectively towards ascension. In a pristine system, you would have nothing artificially inhibiting either your emotions or creating artificial disturbances, and that would help your ascension immensely, because you'd be able to actually see and sense, like, am I going in the right direction? I don't know, let me check in with my feelings, because your emotions and your feelings are supposed to be your barometer for, like, am I driving in the right direction? Am I actually ascending? And you're supposed to be able to tell through your feelings. And then of course we have all this crap that is crapping up our radar system and making it so that we can't actually feel and sense. And then that is making it much more difficult to ascend, because you can't tell, like, hey coach, am I doing it right? Like, I don't know, because I can't feel anything, right? So energetic hygiene can and does have to do with clearing stuff out, mostly that left a negative imprint. Because if something left a positive imprint, it's not really destabilizing or perturbing you or diminishing you that much. If you're like, oh, everything I look at just gives me so much joy, then essentially, like, you're doing the right thing. And what you want to cultivate is not only merely joy, but bliss. So what is bliss? Bliss is the sound you make when you're not making any sound. It is a frictionless quality. So when you're moving through time, if you're having a huge internal dialogue and a lot of words in your mind and a lot of emotional presence in those words, like if I'm ranting internally, and I'm sure you have these experiences too, that could be about anything. It could be about, like, the dish soap. You know, here's an example of a pretend rant in dish soap. Like, you're washing the dishes and internally you're like, this soap doesn't work at all. Everything remains greasy. I'm so angry. I hate this whole entire world. You know, like ranting at the dish soap. So, you know, these are examples of the way that the substances and energy and what you would call negative energy, destabilized, emotional, perturbed energy are connected to substances and activities. And then there's bliss. So that would be rant because of, crappy soap or not enough soap. Here's another rant would be like, there's not enough soap. Someone should have gone to the store. No one went to the store. I'm the only person who ever goes to the store. Why does this always happen to me? Like, you get it? Those are the negative things. And then here would be bliss. Bliss would be, there's no more soap. I'm not upset at all. Look, there's a whole fresh jar of soap on the shelf. Take the soap down and just continue washing the dishes and everything works fine. That's bliss. Like, you don't have to have an internal dialogue. You don't have to have an emotional presence. You don't even have to think about it, because it's just like, oh yeah, that just seamlessly flows into that. Needed more soap, there's the soap, do it, the dishes are done. So bliss is really a frictionless experience in whatever your daily efforts and activities are. Any activity can either be done with the most extreme duress or the greatest levels of joy and bliss. That's it. Depending upon whether you have optimum environment and all of the ingredients that you need. If you have optimum environment and you're like, yep, the water is hot, I have my dishwashing gloves, I have plenty of soap, and everything is done in 5 minutes. I was washing dishes at this one guy's house. He's got historical house. The water's never hot there. No offense to this guy, but he's just got this old plumbing. You can't get anything clean at that guy's house. And I would just be scrubbing and scrubbing. I'm like, this is the worst thing in the world. And I'm laughing, but that caused me an enormous amount of inner friction, lack of hot water. And when I'm doing dishes and everything is perfect, it's like the hot water is fine, the soap is fine, my hands are protected, I'm not breaking a nail, and everything is done in 5 minutes. Just use that as a template for anything that you're doing in your life. Anything that you are trying to accomplish can either be done with the utmost of joy and freedom and just a flow state that is beautiful and fantastic and supportive of life and longevity and coherence, which is really what energetic hygiene is all about, bringing you towards greater levels of life, or the contrast would be bring you closer to death. Stuff that gives you that friction feeling literally brings you closer to death. So it's not just there's no hot water and I'm scrubbing and this thing isn't working and I'm scrubbing and I'm scrubbing and I'm scrubbing, but also I am dying. I am slowly dying. My life force energy is flowing away from me. No, and I'm fake dramatic. I'm dying. But truthfully, you are dying, because in those moments, what's happening is you are going from being in a perfect alignment with divinity to being perturbed and off-center and off-center and off-center, as your emotional energy and the foundation for your sustenance in the world is siphoned off, is diluted, goes elsewhere, goes bye-bye. Your life force energy is dripping away. You are melting. You are dying. Not very good. Because literally, if you really went to this guy and you were like, I love to wash the dishes for you, but your lack of hot water is killing me, life would be different. Life would be very different, but that would be considered extremely hyperbolic, because in the world of objective materialism, things are only killing you if they are directly siphoning blood out of your blood system or whatever, chopping up your veins and arteries. But the idea of being killed by wrong circumstances doesn't exist or is not validated in the world of rational skepticism, but that is exactly what we're talking about. And I joke about, where's the phone? The phone. Okay, of course, I've girded my loins. I have prepared for battle, but I used to be very sensitive to this. When you have to call something up and do some kind of customer service, they always make you do the phone prompt. They make you go, if you want this, press 1. If you want this, press 2. And I'm telling you guys, I used to feel just that's it, I'm dying. I'm dying with every moment of wasted on this nonsense. I feel my life force energy is floating away from me. But again, I have strengthened myself enormously in order to be able to be in this world. So now I'm able to navigate phone prompts and many other boring email things. You know what else will drain your life force energy? I am not even fooling here. Password recovery. You're I put in my password and now I access my account and it says login denied. Do you want to reset your password? You're like, oh, no, I know that I remember my password. And you look through all of your passwords and you put it in again. And it says, no, password denied. Are you sure you don't want to do a password reset? And then finally you're like, oh, okay, password reset. But it's going to say this, 2-factor authentication is on. Now you're going to have to go and get your phone. And you're like, oh no, I have to access my phone and I don't remember my password and I have to get into my email and I don't remember that password. And now that's it. Like my life force is destroyed and now I'm dead. I'm dead. And then you will get to the afterlife and they will say, how do you die? And you will say password recovery and they will all nod knowingly. They'll be like, yup, that kills a lot of people. Of course, like I'm very silly in this joke right now. And I know I have a bizarre sense of humor. But yes, so you guys can all relate. These are things that's the ultimate in friction. In fact, I've done a lot of work, like office work, and that's one of the 95% of the work that I do is password recovery. Do you know that? So I'm getting paid for the destruction of life force energy. But all of this, lightheartedness aside, this is a very, very, very real aspect of what I'm teaching you here. So being healthy according to objective materialism means like, hey, eat right and do your exercises, right? But being healthy according to energy means be on the right timeline. Because it does not matter how many kale and quinoa salads you eat. If you are standing in the direct path of like a bullet or a Mack truck, you will die. That is not a coherent and longevity promoting timeline for you. So it's not just about eating right, getting plenty of exercise. You also have to make the right choices and put yourself in the right space-time coordinates. Avoiding projectiles is one aspect of being in the right place in terms of space-time coordinates, but you can't just be about projectile avoidance. You must also be about aligning with optimum opportunities and nourishments and activities, because frictionless bliss is not just like, oh good, I avoided projectiles all day long today, hooray, I win at life. No, frictionless bliss for me is I get up and this is me. Wait, this is a blissful day for me, all right? I wake up in the morning, of course, like the sunlight is coming in through the window, and I wake up very naturally and I hug my dog. And then Princess Cheeky stays in bed. I get up and I make coffee, and there's no problem, like, because I already did all the dishes and everything, like, oh, it's not like I have to like find a coffee cup, wash a spoon, all of that. The spoon is there, the coffee is there, I have all of the ingredients that I need, I have all of my, coconut milk and everything like that. I have everything that I need. I'm doing everything with barely any effort. And then I make my coffee and I come over here and I turn on my musical equipment and I turn on something and I start making a song, and one sound leads into the next sound, and I'm drinking my coffee and I'm making a wonderful song. And then Cheeky wakes up and we take Cheeky for a walk, and then I come back in and I turn on my music, and just one creative activity blends seamlessly with the next creative activity, and I do my dance and I do my exercise, and then I have to paint, and then the paint is the perfect texture, and I don't have any problems with my paint either, and lunch unfolds perfectly, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to buy any ingredients, everything is exactly there, I eat, and then everything blends into the next thing, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, like, look at that, like, it's 7 p.m., and now it's time to, finish all our projects and get into pajamas and make our evening meal, and you finish everything up for the day. There was no emotional agitation. In fact, when you're in bliss, you hardly even look at the clock. You hardly even note that time is going by. That's why it's like, all of a sudden, the day is done. It's 7 o'clock, but we got all sorts of wonderful things done. And then we sit in bed, we snuggle with our dog in our pajamas, whatever, drink some tea or cocoa or something like that, read a book or watch a positive video, and then go to sleep. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, your best day, your most ideal day. That's every day should be like that. Should be a day of frictionless bliss. Like, none of the things that I talked about were like against the laws of physics or required billions of dollars or anything like that. I'm just talking about the activities that are coherent, longevity producing, life affirming activities all unfold beautifully, and each one is customized for me because, of course, like, You know, for me, what is blissful and perfect is waking up with a dog. But if you've got horrible allergies, then it would not be blissful and perfect for you to wake up with a dog. All right. So all of the things that are blissful and perfect for you. Big takeaway: longevity and coherence, energetic hygiene. The reason why you do all of this is not just to avoid negative stimuli and things that will kill you through projectiles bouncing into you, but you must move towards that which is life affirming. You must move towards that the activities and experiences and edifices that sustain your consciousness. Man does not live on bread alone. I joke. Sometimes there must be a beverage. That's Woody Allen. But truthfully, man does not live on bread alone. You need more than just food and water to stay alive. You need fun. You need fulfillment. You need meaningful activities. You need meaningful relationships. That's the stuff that you move towards in a state of energetic bliss. So when I do my music and I'm in a state of energetic bliss, everything that I press, I'm like, that sounds great. Let me try a different synthesizer sound. That one sounds even better. Put my headphones on. I'm like, that one sounds even more awesome. Like everything that I do sounds great. As opposed to when I'm not in an energetically blissful moment and I'm trying to make my music, because sometimes I do my music to like kind of uplift myself, and I'm like playing, and everything that I play, I'm like, that sounds like crap. Crap, that's terrible. Or even worse. This is also an example of non-blissful music making. So this is me with my coffee in the morning. I'm grumpy. I'm in my pajamas. I'm like, let me just make some damn music. And I turn on my computer and like, something's not working. I need to do an update. This is also another like, you know, circle of hell. It's like, oh, my plugin's not working. Something is crashing. Restart, do an update. And then you restart and you do an update. And then you have to recover your password. And then blah, blah, blah. And then about like 45 minutes have gone by and I still haven't actually made any music. And then I'm like, what is going on with this computer program? Do I have to revert? Do I have to back something up? Do I have to do all of this? And then, yeah, and then you find out like you didn't save your file. You lost your melody line. Like, my percussion is here, but where's my melody line? That happened to me from the song from 1031. So that's the antithesis of bliss. And then you're just like, that's it. I'm going to die. My head is going to explode. Everything is wrong. I'm jumping out a window now. So in those moments, don't jump out a window. What's the solution? You guys got to learn how to clear. Yeah. So I'm going to teach you things right now that might seem intuitively obvious or like very, very beginner, but just imagine that this is what happens when you start to learn how to have a body. So don't have attitude. When I first came here as Aurora, I'm like, oh, like this is what it is to have a body. I had to learn about stuff, guys. Like I had to learn about how you brush your teeth. All right? Like start from the beginning. Don't have too much attitude. Recognize that you're starting from the beginning of how to clean your light body. So when you were a little tiny baby and you came here, they taught you like, yep, this is how you wash your hands. This is how you brush your teeth. This is even like how you wipe your behind. You have to learn how to clean your body and do all of these things. I learned all of these things in chronological adulthood. I was, delighted to learn about all the different, types of cleaning products that you have to put on all of the, you got soaps for every body part, and then you have got moisturizers for every body part. It's a very, very complex process just to have a body. But all of that is essential in hygiene. So when we do physical hygiene for your physical body, on the one hand, what you're doing is avoiding stuff that will kill you. That's part of washing your hands. Be like, yep, you want to wash off a bunch of pathogens, because if you get that stuff in your food when you're eating with your hands, you will die. So you want to wash that stuff off, make sure it doesn't get inside of you. But also, at the same time, you want to use hygiene for optimum comfort in your body. So like with your teeth, you could survive many years even if you never brushed your teeth. Eventually you would have terrible health problems as a result. But you brush your teeth not just to avoid negative consequences, but also because it feels so nice and clean. What do? You eat your food, you enjoy your food, and then afterwards brush and floss your teeth and get rid of like the garlic, the residues. You get rid of the residues of all the stuff that you experienced. You do the same exact thing with your energy, with your emotions, with your emotional energy, with essentially the food of life experience. Because you come here and you eat avocados and potatoes. That's the physical food that you eat. But you come here and you eat emotional experiences. And you must brush your teeth, quote unquote, clean yourself of the emotional experiences that you've eaten, and then you have to digest them. And then you have to excrete the leavings, the stuff that is no longer relevant to you. This is what energetic hygiene really is about. So when I use my example of sitting on that chair and getting a bad phone call, that's eating an experience. It's like eating a very spicy meal that will give you diarrhea, and then you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this because this is definitely hurting my stomach. All the things that you talk about on the phone and all the negative emotions, and negative emotions can be someone else saying to you like, I don't like you, or I don't like something that you did, or something bad is going wrong in life, or someone is sick, or someone is unhappy. And then you get that information inside of you, and it wildly perturbs you. Sends you totally off balance. That's the feeling of like you eat spicy food and you feel your stomach is rumbling and you're like, there will be diarrhea later, something will happen. That's the emotions that you have to process. Because if someone called me up and they said, something is very bad, I'm dying, or I have no money, or everything is not okay, and then they hang up the phone, I have to process all of that stuff. Now you're starting to get it. As you are awakening your light body, you have a whole complement of new senses that are coming online, and you're going to get all sorts of information that's emotional energy information from your new senses. And you're going to sense stuff about your environment, about life circumstances, and about other people that you're going to have to process. You're going to have to process it as exactly, or in exactly the same way as if somebody called you up on the phone and gave you information over the phone. So the rational skeptic of your mind says, I only validate information if it comes to me over the phone. Everything else is nonsense. That's the SpongeBob face. Don't be like that, because you validate the senses of the awakening of your light body. If you start to feel impressions or see things or know things on a deep inner level through your eye of insight, that's the same as getting information that from someone on the phone, or read it in the newspaper, or see it on the TV. Get information. It comes inside of you and has an impact on you, especially on the levels of friction or bliss that you experience, and then you have to process that information. The faster your emotional metabolism, the faster you process that information, the faster you get back on track, okay? So if someone calls you up on the phone, they give you wildly destabilizing information, and then you hang up the phone and you're like, I'm spinning in circles, everything is crap, jump out the window, I feel terrible. That's like you're in a tailspin. Your emotional metabolism is the definition of how fast you process that information and get yourself out of a tailspin. So if someone calls you up and they say, blah, 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 the worst thing in the world has happened, goodbye. And then you have to be like, oh my God, like the worst thing in the world has happened, and now what am I going to do? And then you start to process it, and then you come into go through the whole entire grief cycle, spiral, where you're like, no, that can't be. I reject it all. How can that be? I'm angry. And then you go into acceptance. You get through this whole emotional trajectory, and then you come to acceptance. It might take you 5 days or 5 minutes. And then at acceptance, you're like, now let me do something practical. So someone went from the very worst thing in the world has happened, you get emotionally destabilized, you get restabilized, and then you say, now what can I do? Now what can I do that's the most sensible response to this information that has just come to me? Let's talk about energetic hygiene as the journey to the moment of acceptance. What can I do? All right? Because you have to clear stuff out of you. Clearing. So this is pretty much what I'm teaching you about. So the clearing that I'm teaching you is not something that the rational skeptical mind or objective materialism would validate. It is something that is done with your intention. So I use various different tools to perform my clearings. These crystals are part of what I use to perform my clearings, but I have some sage. I could run and get it. Sage, wait, do I have it over here? This is only one of my sages. I have lots of sage. Sage. Okay, let's talk about tools for clearing. These particular crystals, really any crystal can be used for clearing, but you have to clear your crystal. Just like any sponge can be used for washing the dishes, but your sponge will get gross and you have to clean your sponge. Get it? So you have to clean your cleaners, otherwise it will get gross. So crystals can clear stuff out. Specifically, selenite is wonderful. Selenite is a form of salt, and you can have a selenite wand. We have a little selenite egg-shaped thing that I use, and that is Cheeky's. Cheeky's got her own clearing crystal, because Cheeky goes out every day and gives a lot of hugs to the world. She is really very amazing and very attentive and available and present for people in their life. And she walks around, and if you're feeling not that good, she'll be like, here, just hug me and feel better. She offers herself to people in our daily experience. She's really quite extraordinary in that. Because I'm feeling so great. Like, Cheeky used to offer herself to me. She'd be like, look, you're not feeling that great. You're going to have to hug me now. And now I'm doing so great that she's like, look, you're doing great. You don't need to hug me. Let's get out there. People need hugs from me. And so she walks around all day long. We go into different stores, different people hug her, and then we come home. And when we do our blissful pajama time at the end of the night, I take this little selenite crystal, and I just give her a little crystal rub down all over her whole body. So what the selenite does is, I should get it instead of just describing it to you. Hold on. Selenite. When you get selenite, don't get it wet. It's a salt, it will dissolve. Also, don't put it in your mouth. It's a salt, it will dissolve. Salt is excellent for clearing. And you can do clearings with just regular table salt. And table salt is an excellent tool, energetic tool in your whatever bag of requirements. So yeah, Cheeky gets a little rub down with this, rub it all over her skin and her exterior, and then what do? So this picks up all of the crapola stuff, residues from not only Cheeky interacting with other people, their emotional residues, but from the actual interactivity. So let's say if someone touched her belly and she doesn't like it very much, that would be a negative emotional residue that at the end of the day she's like, oh yeah, I liked it when 5 people hugged me and like tousled my ears, but then that one person scratched my belly and that didn't feel very, very good. Clearing away the emotional residue of not enjoying that particular interaction. That's part of what this clears and picks up. And then the other thing is, someone hugged my dog when they were feeling upset or had a bad day or whatever it is, and their negative energy went onto my dog. She made them feel better. Clear away that energy. And then what do you do? What do you do with the thing like this? It's then full of other people's negative energy. Leave it in the sunshine. And the sunshine has amazing capacities to heal and clear. So the biggest tool for cleansing and clearing is in the sky right now, the sun and the stars. In exactly the same way that literally sunlight has the capacity to bleach and to remove sunlight. In better terms, sunlight is a purifier. It creates purification with everything that it touches. And sunlight is literally information. So this is the very literalism, not metaphor, abstraction, that profound, correct, divinely connected information purifies. It clears stuff that's not supposed to be there. So literal sunlight from our star purifies bacterial and pathogenic infections. You put something in the sunlight, it gets cleared. UV clears it. This is truthful in the energy realm of, I guess you would say, like magic or supernatural as well. So sunlight is a purifier. And when you use a crystal like this to pick up something that is a negative emotional residue, and then you put this in the sunlight clears it out. Got it? All right, very, very good. So I said you can also use table salt. What would that look like? If you want to purify a room, you can put table salt in a little bowl and you can walk around the room with that bowl. The key thing here is intention. Intention really matters. So we're in the realm of supernatural emotional energy, where your feeling state matters a lot, and your feeling state is not measured according to objective materialist science, and so therefore it is not often validated. But if I just sat next to my dog and just kind of went do with this little rock, it would not have as much of an impact on her emotional well-being as if I intentionally go along her spine and along her ears and along her tail with the intention of picking up stuff that's not supposed to be there. All right, so the difference between an intentional activity and a non-intentional activity, think of it like this. If you're playing like a violin and you just move the bow and you go, like that sounds really bad. But if you play with passion, like you are really guiding the bow in exactly the right way, you make the instrument emit a very amazing quality of frequency. So when you do this clearing work, your intention is the thing that matters the most. And when your intention is correct, the tools are secondary. So you are the tool, your intention is the tool. The accoutrements that you use are really quite secondary, and they are important but not essential. So let's say you find yourself someplace and you're like, wow, like I really need to clear something out, but I don't have a selenite wand or sage or anything. Guess what? You can clear something out using your hand, your mind, and your breath. And I do that all the time, all right? Because I clear things all the time. And again, this is light body work. So this is something that is done using your inner senses. Like, why do I clear stuff all the time? Because there's a lot of dirty stuff, all right? That's my only way of being able to say this. I will walk down memory lane with you and talk with you about all sorts of different things. Like I want to talk with you about my early experiences with thrift stores, because I've always been this way, and it's been a real challenge at navigating this world. But table salt. You can put table salt in a bowl. You can put that bowl simply in an area that you want to clear or purify. So just like if I sat in that chair, had a bad phone conversation, and then I'm like, okay, what do? I want to clear this imprint. Putting a bowl of salt next to that chair definitely helps. Let's say you have something, I'm looking for something, whatever. You're like, oh no, I have a lot of bad emotional feelings connected to this pen. I used this pen to write a bunch of stuff, had some negative letters that I had to write, and now every time I look at this pen, I just think about all of those negative letters that I wrote. Stick this pen in some salt. Yes, it will clear away the emotional association. What we're talking right now when I talk about clearing is clearing the emotional association. So this is very, very different than something that is biological or viral, pathogen, or even something that would be considered sticky, like some kind of corn syrup or something like that. If you put poop or corn syrup on a pen, it has physical contaminants on it. You can wash that off easily with soap or rubbing alcohol or something like that, but that does not clear the emotional residue. The emotional residue is a non-physical residue that happens due to the emotional perturbations, that associations that you experienced while using the item. So again, if I use this to be able to write a bunch of hate letters, then this would be filled with or associated with some very, very negative energy. And if I wanted to clear that energy, stick it in some salt. Or one of the other things that I could do is, you don't always have to ignite sage to use it to clear something. You can just use the intention. I've lived in many places where the people that I lived with, they're like, you may not make a smell. So that means no burning of sage. Like, you're not going to smoke tobacco, you're not going to smoke cannabis, you're not going to burn sage. Not allowed. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. What if I need to purify something? I'm going to use this with intention, but not actually ignite this and make this burn. So when you ignite the sage, that are thujones, Thujones, I'm not pronouncing that correctly at all, but that's how it is spelled. These are essential oils that do have an antibacterial quality. there's an apocryphal story about some pope hundreds of years ago during the time of the plague, and he's like, plague, you guys stay away from me. I am barricading myself in my private pope's quarters and burning nothing but sage. This guy burned nothing but sage in his fireplace, and the antibacterial aromatics in the sage definitely helped to purify the atmosphere around him so that he was, cleared of plague. It's a real thing. Burn sage, you get rid of bacteria in your environment. But you do way, 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 way more than that. You're doing more than just clearing away microbes. What you're doing is clearing away energy. And you can clear away that energy using your intention, even if you do not ignite the sage for the aromatics to be released. So if I had a pen with a lot of negative associations on it, instead of the American way, which is throw it away, possibly other countries too, but America is very much disposable. Like, stupid pen, throw it away, get a new one, it's $5. But if you're like, maybe I don't want to be so wasteful, you can clear it. And how would I clear it? I would use this as an extension of my intention, and then I would go along the implement and imagine that this is emitting like a searchlight, like a force field, and that wherever that force field goes, it clears away the stuff that needs to get cleared away. So now I have to talk with you about some of my early years of being here as Aurora. I've always been energetically sensitive. That's like saying, like, I've always been energetically literate. Even in my early years of being here, and I didn't know a lot about human culture, I had a lot of challenges at integrating my energetic literacy and perceptiveness with the cultural prerogatives of this world. One example is going to thrift stores. Because I'm not a starving artist. There were times when I was genuinely a starving artist. I didn't have a lot of resources. And especially in the first couple of years of coming here. And I lived in Woodstock, New York. It's a very small bohemian arts community. Everyone there goes to the thrift shops. It is normal. It is also, like, you can find cool stuff, but it's also very normal to be like, whatever, you need something, you need a hair dryer. Be like, well, check the thrift shops, right? So I used to go, and I used to go with my friends all the time. That was also kind of like, it's almost like hunting. Like, you go out hunting. You're like, okay, we're going to go out to the thrift stores and see if we can find what we need. We've only got whatever, $5. Let's see if we can get this, and this. Because it's a different approach to the world than being just like, okay, I have if you have as much money as you need, then you just be like, just buy it from a store. You don't have to go through the whole laborious nature of going through hunting at thrift stores. But all of that being aside, I did not enjoy shopping at thrift stores because, being energetically sensitive, I could sense the stuff that was an emotional energetic residue on the items, on the implements that were there, that made them not appealing to me. So this is something that is beyond the disdain of saying, like, you want to buy something new. You know what I mean? Like, affectations and the cultural caste system. People who shop at a store and only buy something new, as opposed to shopping at a secondhand store and buying something that has already been used. These are not just different levels of the social caste system or how much money you have available to you. If you buy something from a store that has not been used by another person, it's energetically clear, and you don't have to clear it. And yes, it costs more. And in my mind, when I first got here, I thought that that's why things cost more. I'm like, oh, of course those things cost more, because they don't have a bunch of energetic residues on them that you have to clear out. And then I learned later, like, oh, other people can't even tell these energetic residues, so that's not why those things cost more. Just getting my drink of water over here. But you have to laugh at that, right? But no, that's not why things cost more at, a store buying it firsthand, I want to say, instead of secondhand. So for me, not just an affectation to say, I want to buy something that's in style, that just came out in terms of fashion, but really, what is it? You can see me struggling. what does it feel like when I buy something secondhand or go into a secondhand store? My light body senses, so this is beyond my 5 senses of my physicality, but my light body senses sense a lot of stuff. They sense the emotional residue of all of the other people and their emotional perturbations that did a thing. So it could be if, like, I actually bought this sweater, this rainbow sweater. But if I went into a thrift store and that sweater was there, and even if I didn't put it on, so I sense energetically just by looking at something, looking and smelling. And it doesn't even have to be in my physical presence. I can actually smell things through the screen. I know this is very strange because it is not a physical olfactory sense, but it is the interpretation of pure energy through my cognition of what olfactory sense is, all right? And so, like if I would go into a thrift store and if I touched on something, I would smell something about it. And oftentimes the things that I smelled were not positive. So this is different than the type of aromas that can be removed with laundry detergent. Because of course I learned about laundry detergent when you first came here to this world. I'm like, oh yeah, there's no problem. Like this thing, whatever, if it smells like whatever, like someone was cooking onions and now this sweater smells like onions, throw it in the laundry with the detergent and then it comes out the other side, it doesn't smell like onions. You can launder away something that is a physical aroma, but you cannot launder away an emotional residue. An emotional residue must be cleared because all the laundry soap in the world is not going to wash away a negative emotional residue. So for me, my ability to sense and read objects was mostly on the sense of like clothing and homewares and other items. So yeah, you know something, guys, that was actually a major aspiration to me. So that was like in the first 5 years when I first came here and had limited physical resources and was just struggling as an artist. I was like, yeah, I really want to have more money so that I can buy things that don't have huge emotional and energetic residues on them. And that was really what I started to do, that it was so important to me that what I would really prefer is like I needed to have new dishes for my house. And instead of going to the thrift store where you can find, you know, secondhand dishes very easily and then just wash them with some dish soap. What's the big deal? Because you're not clearing them, you're just washing them. I bought new dishes and I would be like, I would rather have 2 brand new dishes with no emotional residues on them and just have that, as opposed to having a whole stack of dishes from the thrift store that you can clear them with dish soap, but they still are going to have that emotional residue. And so let's talk. So I can talk. I have a friend. She's passed on at this point, but we used to go thrift storing together because again, it was a kind of a social thing to do together. And she had she was so tuned in with her third eye, and she would like touch an object, and she would read all of the energy about it. And so sometimes she would be like, you know, you're walking along through a thrift store, you're kind of like touching things, and she would like touch a thing, she'd be like, ugh, somebody killed somebody with that, you know, like put it down immediately. Yeah, so different levels of energetic sensitivity. Now let's talk in the positive sense of objects having energetic residues and impressions, because that was all the negative stuff. Like, I don't want the negative impressions of someone else. You know what's big? Bed sheets. I will not buy used bed sheets or used mattresses. And for me, this is a concern that goes beyond bed bugs or anything, again, that could be sterilized with steam heat, but is really about the residues of whatever activities a person might have performed on those bed sheets or mattresses or quilts. And people do all sorts of strange things in bed. Some of them might be nightmares and stuff like that, and some of them might be weird sex things. The truth is, I really don't want to be marinating in the energetic residue of any of those things. And none of those things, again, get washed out by laundry detergent or steam cleaning or whatever. So I would say to you, like, only accept a used mattress if you are like me and you are energetically perceptive or planning on being energetically perceptive in your future. Then I would say only accept a used mattress from someone that you don't mind sleeping in their energy field. You don't mind sleeping in the residue of their old dreams and nightmares and sexual fantasies and anything else that they've done in bed. That as long as you don't mind, it's like eating off of somebody else's dirty dishes. Like if I had a bowl of cereal, I ate my Captain Crunch, and then I'm like, okay, here, like you can have this, and yeah, you can eat your tomato soup out of my cereal bowl. Be like, okay, we're gonna wash this, and be like, no, we're not gonna wash this. You're gonna get all of my cereal residues and all of my germs from my mouth, and you're gonna put your lunch inside of there. So if that were true, you would be like, okay, as long as you're healthy and you don't have any bad germs and it's kind of intimate too, as long as you're fine about eating out of somebody else's unwashed dishes, then do it. And if you're not okay with that, then don't do it. And so that's why, again, as I gained more resources in my life, and it was a goal to gain more resources to be able to be selective in this way, I am now very selective about the things. I will not use secondhand bed sheets. I will not use secondhand bras or underwear. Clearly, those are important body parts that stuff goes upon. And let's talk about positive stuff. So this sweater in particular, you're going to think this is gross. I haven't washed it in a long time. It's kind of like a wool sweater. And I got that when I first moved out here to California 10 years ago. I have worn that sweater on many, many adventures. And it's been at times a cat bed for when I had a cat, a dog bed for when I had my dog. It's been with me on a lot of adventures. It's been my pillow when I've been traveling. It's like, kind of like squash it up and then you lean against it when you're kind of like in a train or something like that. I've worn it in many different contexts. I wear it when I'm out in the garden. It's got a big rip in the sleeve. How come I have not just thrown it out the door? As an American, it's the American way. Throw that thing out and support the economy and buy a new one. How come I am such a bad American? Why didn't I do that? And the answer is because for me, that sweater is covered in positive emotional residues. Positive feelings. When I put on that sweater and I think about the past 10 years and like I wore that sweater when I hiked underneath giant redwood trees and, walked across like whatever little streams, and when I was hanging out in a garden, and when I visited my friends, and when I did all these different things, like that garment to me makes me feel more like myself. It feels like Aurora, and when I put it on, I feel like, yes, like that's me. And I haven't laundered it because I don't want to lose any of my adventures. I'm like, yep, that's from when I was picking blackberries, and that's from when I was, living on a cannabis farm, and that's from when I, went for a hike and all these different things. Like, that's really positive. Of course, I encourage all of you to have proper hygiene and not to wear anything that makes you smell like gross or, disgusting. But I have some items like that are really important to me. I have another sweater that I don't even wear it. I keep it in a Ziploc bag. That's how important it is to me, because I wore that sweater during a time in my life when I lived across town here in Ojai, that the smell is very, very special to me. So this is like very poignant. So when I had to move from that house, I didn't have a lot of time and I was under heavy demonic attack, and I took one of my sculptures, that's these lasagna sculptures, and I wrapped it up in a sweater and I put it in like a sealed up tote, like a plastic bin. And then I, went on all of these wild gyrations. And then this is when I was in San Diego a couple of years ago. I was unpacking that sculpture because I wanted to hang it up again. And I opened up the Tupperware bin that the sculpture was in, and my sweater was in there, and it smelled like my old place. And that was a positive emotional flood of energy, because I smelled my old art studio, and I smelled what my life smelled like and what it felt like for me to be in a better time in my life. And I held that sweater and I literally like smelled it and I cried. I'm like, this is me. This is the real me. And I smell that sweater when I need to have a remembrance of that better time before this war, before this very, very difficult, spiritual, energetic, and psychic warfare of the past 2 years. So that sweater is so valuable to me. I wouldn't wash it for $1 million. I don't care. It contains an energy that is not reproducible to me, and reminds me of something that's so precious I would never want to lose it. And so you might have some similar momentum or token or whatever it is, like your wedding dress or just, a picture of something that's so important or whatever, even a dried flower. If you're like, oh, here's that flower from that bouquet that person gave to me, or whatever it is. But these are priceless. These are the most priceless objects that you have, not according to the world of objective materialism that would say if it's not made out of gold or encrusted with diamonds, it is worthless. My sweater would be considered worthless according to that economy. But according to the economy of things that give you longevity and coherence, my sweater is a priceless reminder because it makes me go from heading towards the membrane of death towards remembrance of my true self. So the things that are the most valuable senses and tools and items that you can possibly have are the things that help you to remember your truest self. All right, so getting to some of the things from 10 years ago, and I'll get to all of your questions in the chat too. Let's talk about, what I just talked to you was really more about larger currents of your life and sense memories. Energetic hygiene also relates to just basic good practices for your light body and ways of being able to keep your energy and metabolism moving in a fast and blissful and frictionless way of being. And so that's what I have from my notes from 10 years ago and a lot of what I spoke about then. So energetic hygiene in just best practices, a lot of it takes place while you're sleeping. So it's essential to be able to make time for meditation, times when you are not cognitively active. That a lot of this energetic hygiene takes place when you're not cognitively active, because you have to kind of turn off your intellectual analysis to be able to go into your feeling states, to be able to clean stuff out and release stuff that doesn't need to be there and that you don't want to be carrying around for forever. So sleep is a major part of this, and being able to get good sleep. And my energy, there's so much in terms of sleep. Okay, first of all, let's talk about your bedroom. Your bedroom should be just your bedroom. It should not be your bedroom / office / crafting area / entertainment zone, which is why I'm somewhat naughty sometimes, because I get into bed with my computer and watch Netflix or YouTube videos or something like that. But technically, you should not do that. Technically, your bed and your bedroom should just be for sleep and for body processes and for changing your clothes and for private sexual activities. That's the only things that should happen in your bedroom. So of course, like, not everybody is perfect like that, and I've sometimes I've been very imperfect, but largely, like, I don't have a big house where I live, so I'm like, okay, like, my bedroom doubles as other being able to do stuff type of places. But ideally, you would not do anything in your bedroom other than things that you do in bed, sleep and sex, all right? When I get into what you should do is, when you are in your bed, the only energy things that you're associated with in your bedroom should be positive and restful and blissful things. So that also means, like, you should not have a bookshelf in your bedroom, because you're going to be sleeping next to the energy of all of those books. You never thought of that. I can tell your minds are being blown. You're like, wait a minute, if I'm just in proximity to a book, yes, you're in the energy field of a book. This is my notebook that's like for writing down my stuff for my music. But, like, let's say whatever, this is a book of disturbing short stories, and you have this on your bookshelf next to your bed. You are sleeping in the energy field of this book of short stories? What if this is a diary from 10 years ago where you unloaded a bunch of unpleasant stuff and you have it on your bookshelf next to your bed? Terrible. Terrible. You do not want that stuff to be in your energy field while you are sleeping. You're starting to get there. Please don't store weird stuff under your bed. I'm just going to let that sink in. Most people are like, hey, like I've got a ton of room under my bed. I can store all sorts of weird things. How about I just shove a bunch of crazy junk underneath there? Because the answer is when you go to sleep at night and you turn off your, this is me like a light switch, turning off my daily waking intellect, what happens is your energy field expands. And your energy field is your light body, and your light body has senses, and you feel stuff. And when you are laying in your bed and your energy field expands and you feel the stuff that is underneath your bed, you will pick up on those energy features, and then you will have impressions and experiences, and you will respond to the stimuli of the stuff that is there. So what if you have your box full of diaries from 10 years ago where you wrote a bunch of bad stuff about like your ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends and every other pathological thing in your life, and then you're like, okay, I really didn't have room for this, store it under the bed, because that's where you store stuff, right? And you put that box of disturbing journals under your bed. At night, when you expand your energy field, you will then absorb those journals. You don't want to do that, or any other crazy random crap. You actually want the area underneath and surrounding your bed to be clean, so that when you release your daily waking intellect, and you expand your energy field, you expand in levels of clarity. And then if you want to be really, really conscious and present about things, you would put things in your energy field that you want to imprint upon. So there's stories about like Edgar Cayce, he was known as the sleeping prophet, and a couple of other people where like if this is a book that they've never read and they fall asleep with the book on their chest, like, you know, sometimes you kind of like, you drowse and you kind of like fall asleep, you put the book there, they would wake up and they would know everything that's in the book. You get it? Because you read with your bubble of energy, not just your ocular vision. You read and absorb with your whole entire energy field. So big takeaway, big, huge emphasis. You absorb with your energy field. Just like in your physical body, your skin is one of the largest organs that you have in terms of ingestion and excretion. You ingest a lot of stuff through your skin. It's a wonderful way to put stuff into your bloodstream. Put it into a cream and then put it on your skin, and it will go into your body. And also, it's a wonderful way to get stuff out of your body. You want to do a great detox bath, make a nice bath with zeolite or Epsom salts in it, and then the stuff absorbs. Yes, Epsom salts are directly related to selenite and clearing salts. Yes, being an empath and absorbing and being porous to other people's emotional exudations means you will directly benefit from regular salt baths and getting into the tub and having the salt water absorb the emotional and consciousness and cognitive residues that you have absorbed from just being around other people or from your direct interactions with people. Again, these are two separate things. I can have indirect absorption just by walking past you. Like you're in a terrible mood and you're grumping out like this, and I walk past you and like your grump rubs off on me, and I'm like, why do I feel that way? I don't know. I better go take an Epsom salt bath because I think I got some of that guy's grump, right? And then that's very, very different than if you specifically called me up on the phone and you were like, grump, 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 smash, close the phone. And I'm like, oh, I just got an earful of grump from that guy. I think I need to go take a bath and de-grump. And when I lived in places that were close to the ocean, I used to do that with the salt water of the ocean, that I would be like, have a session or whatever personal emotional work that I was doing with people, and then in closing out the session, then just walk on over to the ocean, and just even going in like up to your knees, like, you know, you roll up your pants and just walk through the waves of the ocean, has a very, very measurable, valid improvement on my emotions and my energy field, because the salt clears stuff away. And so there's very real reasons why going for a long walk on the beach makes you feel better. the ocean also, how it kind of like the waves come up, they go across your feet, and then they pull back, and they're constantly like pulling back stuff out of you that you don't want to be in you. So empaths and emotionally perceptive and porous people, you need to do salt baths, and you need to go to the ocean if you're near the ocean. And if you don't, I have this, it's just heavy to carry, a crystal lamp. I have one of those Himalayan salt lamps. It's like a pink piece of salt that has a light bulb inside of it, but I keep it in my bedroom. Oh, I didn't tell you that's what you should have in your bedroom? Yes, that is what you should have in your bedroom. And that is what you should turn on for several hours before you go to sleep at night, maybe even leave it on as a nightlight while you sleep, because that will help to purify your energy field. Yes, 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 yes. So objective materialism will say things about like ions, negative ions, the stuff that's at the ocean, the salt air, the stuff that's in a salt cave, and the stuff that's emitted from your Himalayan salt lamp. And all of that stuff is valid, but also just comprehend that the salt lamp is creating like a cleaning bubble around it, and when you turn it on, that you are helping to cleanse your environment in exactly the same way that the sage helps to cleanse your environment. So best practices and general good stuff to do. So sleep with the salt lamp. Sage your place. If you live in a place like I did where you cannot combust things or make aromas, don't worry. You can sage with a wand like this. Here is how you sage. You begin with the east, like where the sun rises in the east. So here in this room, I will just hop off my treadmill for a moment. There's a window right here. You sage anything that is a square and anything that is a doorway or a window. Essentially, you are clearing energy portals and doorways and entry and exit points from your room. So you begin at any time of day in the east, and you also, with your intention, should affirm how happy and grateful you are for all of the good things that you have in your life. So we're actually not focusing and saying like, get away from me all the bad stuff, I hate all you bad stuff. No, what you actually do is affirm for the good stuff. And this is from my first person perspective, clockwise clearings, okay? So I begin facing the east, I begin with my front door, and I begin with a clockwise clearing. And as I clear that, then I'm also going to clear this window, and I'm also going to clear this whole entire wall. And as I do that, I say, I am so happy and grateful for this beautiful art studio, for my door, which gives me privacy and protection from the world. And then you turn and you go to the next one. So this would be to the south. And then I'm going to clean and clear this whole entire wall with the intention and with the movement of my arm. But I'm also going to clear every single one of the little bricks and cinder blocks. I'm going to clear my shelves. Do it, guys. And then I'm going to turn to the next one. The whole entire time affirming how grateful I am for this space, right? Then we're going to clear this wall back here. Here's a window. This is where the sun sets. I'm clearing out the window. I'm so grateful for my painting space. And then we would turn to this wall over here. I would clear this door, this window, clear my paintings, go into the kitchen. Kitchen is over there. I would do the same thing. In each room, you do all 4 quadrants. You can clear the ceiling or the above. You can clear the floor or the below. And then critical, clear the within. So you actually have 7 directions: north, south, east, west, the above, the below, and the within. And then I'm going to clear out my hallway. I'm going to clear out my bedroom. I'm going to clear out my bathroom. And of course, like that's if you do not have your sage ignited, then you simply go through all of those areas of your home, affirming your gratitude for them and clearing out anything that's not supposed to be there. If this is lighted and it's emitting smoke after you finish going through all the rooms of your house, then you douse it, stick it in some water, or put it into some soil so it stops burning, and then you're good. Then you're done. That's it. And it doesn't have to take a huge amount of time. It can take 5 minutes or whatever. And that is part of best practices. Just do that on a general basis. Okay, so you do that on a general basis. You also clear with sage when you first move into someplace. So before I moved into this apartment a couple of months ago, it was just like, a plain white box. Someone else had moved out. A normal person is like, oh, I'm about to move in, so what am I going to do? I'm going to get my broom and I'm going to sweep stuff out. Then I'm going to get my mop. I'm going to mop the floor. Broom and mop are both tools for energy hygiene. They are more than just tools for mopping up footprints. They sweep out the energy of the former people that used to live in this apartment. And then whenever I use my broom, I'm sweeping out old energy. You got it? Yes, you do. So before I moved in here, I got my cleaning supplies and I swept and I mopped and I saged. Then I moved my stuff in and then I saged again. And then whenever I'm feeling like the energy is heavy or whatever is going on, I will sage again. And so just like with your teeth, you brush your teeth like after you eat like whatever, some kind of like garlic cheesy fries or something like that. Like you brush your teeth so that you don't have horrible garlic breath. And then you're going to eat something again later and then you brush your teeth again so that you have good breath. So yeah, your living space is constantly going to respond to your life circumstances and you will have to clear it often. And that's totally appropriate. You want your house to be clear. So you can clear your house as many times as you need to, and you don't always have to clear your whole house. Sometimes you might just clear part of your house. Let's say I'm in my house and I'm like, I need to clear this out, but I just don't want to have to go through the whole rigmarole of finding my sage and lighting it and blah, blah, blah. Can I clear something just with my intention? And the answer is yes. Like, let's say, here's my little sweater jacket here or whatever, and something, whatever it was, whatever happened with this particular object, but I now feel that there is some residue on here that I don't want to be on here. First of all, I don't actually have to be holding on to this physically, that I can be sitting in my bed and I can think of my blue jacket. And I can be like, something, there's a lot of perturbations connected to my blue jacket. Let's clear it. So an envisioned clearing would be if I was in my bed, I could close my eyes and I could envision everything about my blue jacket, and I could even envision like maybe it's hanging in the closet, or maybe it's thrown on my little chair, catch-all chair over here. But I imagine that I am moving a clearing, purifying energy field across that object, taking out the stuff that I don't want to be there, and then leaving it clear. And it can be that fast. So, because that's it. Because instead of being like, let's say like I'm trying to fall asleep at night, and I'm like, blah, 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 but I have negative associations, my blue jacket. And then what I can do, instead of being like, okay, let's get up, let's put on our bathrobe, find our cigarette lighter, light the sage, clear the jacket, and then get back into bed. I can just be like, I'm going to envision it, I'm going to envision the clearing, and then I didn't even have to get up out of bed. That is kind of expert level stuff, but I want you to know that activities like that are possible because we are in levels of intention and non-locality, all right? When you clear something, you take away food from the pooties. Every time you clear something, a pootie goes hungry. This is me, like, okay, like I was in bed, I was disturbed, I remembered something, I cleared out my blue jacket, all right? And then now this is me, I'm pretending to be a pootie. The pootie's like, hey, I was gonna eat that. Hey, stop clearing out my leftovers, I was gonna eat that. So yes, pooties and negative nanites thrive upon and are sustained by negative emotional residues. And when you clear out negative emotional residues, not only do you have a frictionless blissful experience of moving from moment to moment, but you take away the energy that these other negative residues use to be able to sustain themselves. You heal and rectify the entire structure of the cosmos, so you have a much greater levels of freedom and latitude and clarity, and you have coherence and longevity, and you don't die, and this other stuff gets starved out. It's really, really big, important stuff. So emotional residues sometimes are just part of an object, but mostly for me, I experience them as being part of an interaction or an interrelationship. The object is relatively neutral. So one example is if I am sitting at a table with someone and we have some kind of a difficulty in our friction in our emotional interaction, and then let's say this is an object that's on the table. Like this object got imprinted from the negative emotional energy between me and that other person, but this object is not really a part of it at all. It's just a witness or a sponge for that stuff. I clear it out. I clear it away because this is a valuable object that I don't want to have to throw it out the window in a landfill. And also I don't want to have to feel a bunch of negative crap every time I look at this object. Because this might be like, again, my glasses, my computer, my coffee cup, stuff, something that I use all the time. I don't want to have to think about crap every time I look at this thing. And the negative interaction might have been totally valid. Like I actually learned about this. I don't want to like use people's names or whatever, but I was helping someone to fill out a job application, and I said something to them, like they were across the table from me, and I was like, like you could really do this yourself, kind of saying like, hey, I think you're more capable than you think you are of this. And that I could, like, they took it as a slight, that they took it as a criticism and kind of went down into themselves from me saying this. So it was a whole thing. It was like what people call, I guess, a microaggression. It was a micro perturbation, but it still was a perturbation. And then I sensed the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, and then those stupid pooty crapheads are going to try to feed off of this ever going forward, because look, I'm trying to help someone out, I'm trying to help them to get a job, I'm trying to help them to use the computer, I'm trying to help them to do all these different things, and then I say this thing to them, and then the other person is going to react this way emotionally. You get it? You get it? First of all, it's the antithesis of frictionless bliss. It's the antithesis of moving ahead in an easy way with no obstacles or anything like that. Like that activity and the person and everything that it was surrounding that circumstance was 100% anti-bliss. It was 100% friction. It was like whatever, the gears of the transmission of the car going like crunch, 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 100% friction in everything. And I just remember recognizing that and being like, oh no, we're not going to leave this as a giant pile of friction that can be fed off of in the future. Clear it away. And when you clear it away, what it means is you don't get to be blamed, and the other person doesn't get to continually blame you non-verbally in their emotions. Because the friction is something along the lines of like, how could you say that thing, and I'm mad at you, and I'm feeling negative feelings towards you, and so that you get it. The accusation and the blame is the emotional residue, and sometimes the humans are participants where they're like, I am blaming you, you did something wrong, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes the human participants are just conduits for blamefulness and perturbations and energy siphoning. Sometimes it's not something that you are even doing intentionally or consciously on a cognitive level. Sometimes just your presence, just your face. Have you ever had someone react to you and be like, what's with your face? Don't make that face at me. You're like, I am just existing. I have no idea what you're talking about. My face is just my face. They're like, no, you're making a face at me. You get it? So sometimes people are genuinely making a face. This is a genuine face, right? And then sometimes they're not making a face. Sometimes people are just like existing, and you're projecting upon them. But all of the emotional perturbation, energy siphoning, energy harvesting, and the perception of face is what we're talking about. And of course, these are social subtleties and dynamics that would never be recognized in the world of objective materialism, even though I'm sure probably most of you have all felt this. So what do I do in the circumstance of this memory of the job application? What do I do? Clear it. Clear it. And I don't even have to burn sage This is a symbol in my mind because that energy residue is in existence in my body, in the Akashic records, or in the abstraction of time, and in the other person that I interacted with. Clear it. Clear it, clear it, clear it, clear it, clear it. And when we clear it, and the negative emotions, let's say, become attached to this selenite, and then they go elsewhere, then the perturbations are gone, and then when you look at that emotional experience, what you see is, oh, I was a well-intentioned person who was person A attempting to help person B, and person B was a well-intentioned person who was attempting to do their best and get a job. And then also, it was a valid criticism that person B was more capable than maybe they imagined themselves to be or portrayed themselves to others. All very valid, but when you clear away the negative emotional residue, you're just left with the accurate assessments. I want to think of other examples. Okay, so wait. Eventually all of you will have your light body awakened, and eventually all of you will be like the way that I am, but you might not be this way yet, but let me just share the way that I am. So I read objects, just like my friend who could read, like, if something had been used as a murder weapon. Any superpower can also be considered a vulnerability depending upon how it has an impact on your life, okay? So when I've been in control of my own environment, and I can move towards or away from objects, then being able to read an object can be hugely empowering. And also, just as a fun and interesting, tangent, you're moving into a world where everybody will have light bodies that are awakened. And that means that when you look at an object, you read the object and feel all of the energy associated with it. And that creates greater value for what the object is. So let's say I have two different paintings. One is the painting that I worked on, like let's say this one that's right behind my shoulder here. And I made that painting that was very passionate. And I remember actually making that painting when I had like a lot of things going on in my life and a lot of health problems. And I was like very like emotionally invested in what I was doing. I felt like, again, passion. I felt a lot of intense emotion about the thing that I was making. And let's contrast that with, let's say if I made a copy that was a reproduction of this same exact painting, but I made it now and I didn't have a lot of the emotions going on. But if I did exactly everything the same way, like if I measured everything the same way, mixed up the same colors, and made something that looked the same to your visual eyes and processing centers, but did not have the same level of emotional energy in there. So I didn't wake up every morning and be like, I'm painting for my life. This really matters. I better get going and finish this project because it matters to me so much. If I just did it like the most neutral workaday thing. So this painting and the, I want to say imposter, the reproduction, they would not be the same energetically at all. And in the society that you are moving into is going to be an energetically perceptive and literate society where you will be able to feel and sense and read the energy fields coming off of objects, including fine art. And when you do that, you will be very surprised because a lot of the artwork that's in museums are not the originals, and a lot of them are what I would consider to be like dead, inert. They're inert. They don't have an energy field. So you'll be really, really surprised because stuff that has passion attached to it, this is why art is worth something. All right? Art is not, now I'm just telling you the truth. Art is not worth something because of a whimsical or arbitrary gallery system or museum system or systems of trusts and finances and even money laundering at high levels of your social caste system. That is not why art is expensive. Art is priced according to like the energy field and the presence of what is emitted. And that is what genuinely perceptive people can feel. So like a real Van Gogh, that this Van Gogh painted with an enormous amount of passion. And like there were times when Van Gogh was like very, very ill or emotionally destabilized, and he painted anyway. So like if you're on your deathbed or very, very ill or really, really struggling, and you drag yourself out of bed and make a painting, that painting is going to have passion and layers of emotional, positive, worthwhile residue that would not be there otherwise. That would not be there if it was like, oh yes, like my day was fine. I got up and I painted a masterpiece and then I hopped back into bed. So I mean, because some of the things that Van Gogh painted, he was like in what is it called? Like not a sanctuary, but like a retreat for people that had, you know, severe mental illness. He dragged himself out of bed and painted up painting and did like, that was his one valuable activity that he did during the day. And then we look at that painting. I'm trying to say, like, that painting is about more than just pigment on canvas. It is about the passion of, I keep using that word, but let's say emotional intensity of the artist in that moment of creation. And that emotional intensity cannot be measured by science, and it cannot be reproduced. Because you're never going to be able, like, what makes that painting valuable is not the linen and the molecules of pigment that are put upon the linen. It's the circumstances of that particular person and the non-able to be recreated uniqueness of their life and that moment and that situation. That's why it's worth $35 million, all right? Not because some fancy guy in an auction house says this is worth $35 million, or this is worth this, or this is worth that. Again, I'm very aware of like money laundering and a lot of the crappy things that are done in the art world in order to, distort people's finances. But I'm talking about real art, something that is really, really hugely valuable, and what makes a masterpiece hugely valuable, all right? So, and then you can also relate that to your life, like the things that really matter. So, okay, so in my own artwork, my originals are hugely valuable to me in terms of the energy presence of everything that I was going through when I made those pieces. So they are not priced merely on like the square footage, how big they are, or even how long it took to make them, if it took a year, or if it took a day, or something like that, or the amount of materials, if they're made with gold or semi-precious stones, or no, that is not how you price an artwork. You price the artwork on the layers of emotional intensity that are imbued upon that object. So just like in the same way, I'm not going to wash that sweater and wash off all of the positive, good vibes of cats and dogs and places that I've been that's on that sweater. That painting that's up there has an amazing amount of good vibes attached to it that makes it hugely valuable to me. This is different than the sense of commodifying artwork based on other social and practical materialistic evaluations. Got it? Except not everybody in your world is energetically literate yet, but at a certain point you will be. And so now we'll rewind a little bit to the other thing that I was going to say about being energetically literate, that as you are energetically literate, of course you will often be wildly at odds with the rest of the world that is not yet perceptive to that level. So like someone might have looked at me and been like, well, you sure have a lot of attitude not wanting to buy, a secondhand sweater at this thrift store. Why not? Like, look at you, like the caviar lifestyle or whatever. And I'm like, no, actually, like I don't enjoy the energy residue of the things that are on that sweater or in that store. I found it to be actually a huge assault even to go into thrift stores, because you feel and sense all this stuff from other people. And the people that sent stuff to thrift stores, they didn't necessarily have great lives. You know what I'm talking about? You're going to get a lot of emotional residue from perturbed people. It's like the disturbed store for disturbed people of disturbed items. Like, that's not a good place to shop. And it's not a good place to go in and kind of marinate amidst all of that. So it's not just your whimsy or self-aggrandizement. There might be very, very real reasons why you choose not to expose yourself to certain environments or certain activities or certain commodities. And so then now indefinitely. So if you are, let's talk more about energetic hygiene. I talked a lot about physical objects. Let's talk about people and social edifices. If you are empathic or porous, your energy field soaks stuff up from other people. Like, you're not going to want to do a lot of things that people do in this world, because of the people that you're going to be marinating with are people who are not very well cultivated or very evolved, and they're going to be having an impact on you. So look, if you've got $10 million in your energy bank account and someone else has $5 in their energy bank account, and you go out to the bar or the baseball game, and they've only got $5 in their energy account, they're getting energy from you, and you are going to feel less energetic when you get home, and they're going to feel more energetic when they get home. You get it? This is just like, water seeking its own level. Like, you're going to get drained. This is part of energetic hygiene. So energetic hygiene, you must develop energetic sovereignty and work on your own boundaries, so that if you are, like, again, what is the bar? The bar is the room for people that have very low energy, that go to that room in order to release their energy and go into an even lower energy state. And they often feel a sense of bonding and camaraderie through everyone releasing their energy and going into a lower energy state together. This is what getting drunk is together. Get it? It is a sense of camaraderie, but really what is happening is everybody is giving up their last $5 from their energy account together, and then they all are like at the zero resting state of nothingness together. And that is not a positive thing. So yes, I also, when I first came here, learned about all of the socially condoned yet energetically aberrant activities. Drinking alcohol is socially condoned, socially celebrated, but it is energetically aberrant, because that is not good energetic hygiene. What is drinking alcohol? Like, you're losing energy. You throw your energy out the window. When you drink alcohol, you are throwing energy out the window. It is not good energetic hygiene. So, energetic hygiene, there's aspects of moving in frictionless bliss, how easy or how difficult your movements through each moment are. But then there's also the sense of your overall metabolism or your overall savings account of how much energy you have. So when you have good energetic hygiene, you want to clean your stuff up, just like brushing your teeth. You want to clean your stuff up, but you also want to have a lot of energy in your energetic bank account. You don't want to have only $5. And you also, if you only have $5 in your energetic bank account, you don't want to fritter it away. And part of energetic hygiene is protecting what's in your energetic bank account from others who have frittered their energy away through activities such as drinking a lot of alcohol, and also, when I talk about the baseball game, boredom. Energetic hygiene is the antithesis of boredom. Boredom is an energy drainer. And this whole entire society is all about making people bored. When I joke about like that phone prompt and how like my life force energy is falling away, the phone prompt, what's really happening is I am being bored to death. I'm so bored, and that my energy of being alive is being siphoned off, and if I get bored enough, I might die. I might fall over and die. And I have felt that way literally at baseball games. There was when I first came here as Aurora, and I'm like, oh, like what a quaint custom. Let's see what this is all about. And then I was like, I am very bored. And then people were like, you need to drink alcohol. And I'm like, I don't drink alcohol. And they're like, but this is how we deal with this boredom. Do you understand? There are other aspects of boredom. So the direct moments of boredom that are assuaged by the alcohol at a baseball game. But people are bored in their life. People are bored from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the weekdays of Mondays through Friday. And then on Friday evening, they go to the bar because they have been bored between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday. You understand this. The daily activities that most people engage in are boring, are soul-sucking, are anti-coherence and anti-longevity, and then the alcohol is used as a, I want to say, treatment for or response to that boredom that then brings them to a state of zero. All this boredom brought me down to a state of having only $5 in my energetic bank account. Now I will go down to zero. That will be my recreational activity. None of that is positive. Like, there's a lot of things about the way that society is structured that is not positive, and that is not something that you want to be doing. So, energetic hygiene has to do with who you surround yourself with and what activities you surround yourself with, as much as what physical objects you surround yourself with or ingest. When I first came here as Aurora, I shared with you a little bit about like the first couple of years that I was here and how I worked as a custom framer. Like, first I had to rebuild my math skills. I had to learn about having a bank account. I had to learn about numbers and money and commodification and counting. And then once I did that, then I was able to work as a custom framer. And when you're a custom framer, like, you stand at your custom framing desk and all these different random weird people in the world come up to you and talk to you and ask you questions. And sometimes it has to be about framing a piece of artwork. And sometimes it's just random weird questions. That was the least enjoyable part of my existence that I came here as Aurora so far. In fact, at that time in my life, so that was like 2006 or 2007, so I was like a 6-year-old. And I remember thinking, I can't wait until I am so in control of the structure of my life that I get to choose 100% who I interact with and who I marinate with, because the interactions and the emotional marinating, like, you're interacting in a sea of emotional energy, and the quality of the energy of the people that I was interacting with was so draining, was not life-affirming, was so anti-coherent, that I knew I didn't want to interact with any of these people, and I was professionally obliged to do so. And so what I said to myself was, I need to change and restructure my life so that I get to make a choice about whether I interact with people or not. Because again, when you are professionally obliged and anybody comes into the store, you have to talk to them. The customer is always right. This is part of the United States as well. Someone says, I'm the customer, I got money, I want to buy something. You're like, great, sir or madam, let me help you. You're right, I'll do anything. You got the money. So I had to interact with all these different people, and what that felt like was all of these people got emotional energy from me. All of these people also dumped emotional energy on me. So energetic hygiene means I go home at the end of my day and I have to wash a bunch of energy stuff off of me that I don't want to be there. This is me at the end of my day of being a custom framer. I better clear out all of this stuff and clear out all of this stuff and clear out all of this stuff and clear out all of this stuff. Like, how utterly exhausting. Like, you know, if you were to work at some kind of thing, like you're working in the oil rig, you get sprayed with petroleum oil every day, and you have to go home and like scrub and scrub and scrub and get the stuff off, and then the next day it's like time to get sprayed with black greasy grime again. Like, this is not what I want to do. And that was what I felt like my life was like in those early years of being here. I was not very in control of my existence, and I was working at an entry-level position. And then I literally did change and restructure my life as I became more empowered, so that I could make a choice and use the magic word. You know, it's the magic word, N-O. Magic word for emotional hygiene is no. Sometimes it sounds like no thank you, but it really says no, I don't want that to come inside of me, or no, I don't want to give that to you or to become connected to you. That's it. Magical words for energetic hygiene. So part of energy hygiene is not getting sprayed down with or interactive with gross, dirty stuff, or destabilized with gross, dirty stuff, emotional residues and other perturbations that are not what you want to be a part of. So I'm sure that you guys have experienced something like this in your own life over the past 2 decades as you move away from needless drama, D-R-A-M-A, the drama, the people that are all about like, who said what to who, who's dating who, how could you do this to me? Just a lot of nonsense and a lot of very fraught, friction-filled interactions, to the point where if there's no friction, people are like, what are you even living for? If you can't go into work and have, a great whatever fight with your coworkers or your supervisors, what are you even living for? They're used to it. And that stuff is what causes aging. The reason why I did this teaching 10 years ago, when someone asked me about energetic hygiene, because they were asking from the perspective of longevity and coherence and being healthy and looking young. And the truth is, you know what makes you unhealthy and drains you so you look really old? The stupid phone prompts. You don't need Botox. You need to be less bored and not to be bored to death on these stupid phone prompts and everything else that is boring and degenerative. The stuff that wears you down in life and does not uplift you. So in my experience as being a custom framer, people were very worn down in their lives, and they were looking at me in my job and they were like, that's a shiny object. I'm gonna get some energy from that shiny object over there. You got it? So you guys, in terms of becoming energetically perceptive and then performing energetic hygiene, it's part of your boundaries. You recognize that people that are not yet energetically perceptive or in control of their life will still sense your light and energy and metabolism of your light body, and they might still want something from you, but they might not be cognitively, analytically aware of it. I'm all over the place in my presentation today, but I wanted to talk to you about food. So energetic hygiene as it relates to food is not probably what you think. Food is not random or arbitrary. So there is one pastry in that case that is your pastry, or hamburger, or pork chop, or whatever it is. In any circumstance where you are there's a deli case or a pastry offering, meat case, any place where there's like an array of all of these different food items, and you're going to get your food. But this is not arbitrary. There is one that is made for you. So we get into levels of energetic hygiene. My friend could read and she could tell, like, wow, I touched this object, somebody killed somebody with this object. That is, gross, and we want to move away from objects that were used in that way. But we want to move towards objects that are customized and fine-tuned to be significant to each one of us in our lives. So when you go through a thrift store, if you do it right, you avoid the things that were used as murder weapons or weird sex toys or whatever. And then you align with all the things that are exactly the unique things that you need to not only stay alive on a basic survival level, but to thrive. That's the real idea. When you're going through your life, you're not just hunting at thrift stores. You're really looking everywhere you go with the hunter's eyes. So that means stores, but also websites and emails and any of these things. You're looking for the opportunities, interactions, and energetic edifices that bring you towards longevity and coherence, the things that keep you alive. So when you're in a store that has food, you're doing more than just looking for random calories to stay alive. That's my dog. My dog just vacuums the floor. She just looks for random calories to stay alive. She'll eat anything. She's not selective. You need to be much, much more selective than my little dog vacuuming the floor of the world. If you go to a store where there's food, then you're like, there's some food item in this store that is made for me. What is it? First of all, treat it like a puzzle, a fun puzzle to explore, not a crushing burden. And then the other thing is fine-tuning your senses. So I used to play this game all the time at the pastry shop to see which of the pastries, you might think of it in these words, calls out to you, speaks to you, is connected to you in some way, or to me, they always look like they're glowing or sparkling. So you could have whatever, 5 different lavender chocolate eclairs or whatever is your favorite fancy pastry, but they're not all the same. One of them sparkles, one of them glows, one of them says, eat me, I'm the one. And same thing with if you're buying meat, like something like there's like different steaks or chops or hamburgers there, they're not all there for you. Some of them are scenery. One of them is there for you, and you have to choose the one that is there for you. So when the person who is serving me my food, sometimes they ask, they're like, which one do you want? And sometimes I'll say, the one that's closest to you, or that one there. And sometimes I will say, dealer's choice, pick me a winner, all right? And there's all different ways to approach this, but just recognize this is also part of energetic hygiene. You choose which people you interact with. You're selective about that emotional energy from talking to people and interacting and relating to people. You choose which food items you interact with. And it's not always the same. When you go to a store that contains food, sometimes it's going to be all about the lavender chocolate eclair. And then the next time you go into that place, it's not about the lavender chocolate eclair. Because this is not repeatable. This is like flying rainbow lasagna. It is an unpredictability artistic activity. I don't paint the same painting twice. Hopefully all good musicians and artists do not paint the same painting or play the same music song twice. It's always a little bit different. It's always upgraded. Because otherwise you would just be like a computer going through the same boring iterations over and over and not getting any place. So when you go into a supermarket, one day it's about finding the perfect avocado out of a whole mountain of avocados. One day it's about finding exactly the right, whatever container of yogurt or goat cheese. One day it's about finding exactly the right hamburger or pork chop. So this goes beyond vegetarianism and veganism and any kind of dietary restrictions like that. You have to eat the specific thing that is right for you. And think about it like this. If we lived in a non-industrialized world, you would be walking along, either growing your food or hunting and gathering your food, and you'd be in a world of all sorts of different types of food offerings. Like if you are really connected to nature and you go someplace and there's whatever, like a lot of cattails or something like that, like there's a lot of food. You can eat all of these different plants. But you're not supposed to eat all these different plants. You're supposed to eat enough to sustain you, and you leave some behind for the next season or for the other animals. You get it? So the industrialized, materialistic, regular human, domesticated human way of looking at things, if you went into the woods and you found a field of cattails, you'd be like, wow, look at all this food. I'd better harvest it all immediately, take some for myself, dry or freeze the rest of it for the winter, possibly sell some to neighbors. You got it? It's a different way of thinking about food and resources. The energetically tuned in, natural human way of looking at things is to say, wow, I've just been presented with all of these resources. Some of them are for me, but not all of them. Some you know. And then now it's up to my creative job to harvest and choose what is there for me. And it will sparkle. Instead of the pastry in the case that's going to sparkle and glow, the plants that you should harvest will sparkle and glow, and then you will feel when you have taken enough. And then you will know when you have enough. And then also, like let's say if you took whatever 60 units of a thing that was available. And then, because that's what your inner guidance told you to take. And then you're going along, and then you meet like 2 other people. And your inner guidance tells them you should now give 40 units of what you collected to these 2 people because they're going to need some of it. It's a totally different way of living in the world, because believe me, most people in this world, if it was like, okay, you're going to work at this job, you're going to earn $60 today, and then if I told you follow your inner intuition and you're going to meet 2 people and you're supposed to give them $40, be like, I can't give them $40. Like I only earned $60 and they didn't do any work and blah, blah this and blah, blah that. You get it? It's a totally different, the rationalism is a totally different approach to life. So energetic hygiene, when we come down to it, it's about longevity and coherence and for you to have a better life and be more blissful and stay alive, but it's also about the interconnectedness of your relationships and your resources and how you receive and how you give in this world. So there's specific and non-random amounts of food, items of food that you will receive, and then there are specific and non-random bites of food that you will receive. This is a lot, because you go to the pastry case, you see the chocolate lavender eclair, you can tell that there's 6 of them on the shelf, but only 1 of them is meant for you. You ask for the one that is, tell them, like, give me the glowing eclair, please, and then you have it, and now here's the real question, energetic hygiene. Do you eat it right then? Do you eat all of it right away? Do you eat half of it? Do you eat 1 bite? Do you eat 2 bites? What do you do? And the answer is, it is a different answer in every circumstance. In some circumstances, you eat the pastry right away. In some circumstances, you go for a walk and you're walking down the street and you eat 1 bite and then you take 10 steps and you eat another bite and take 10 steps. And in a different circumstance, you save that pastry for the next 12 hours and then you wake up the next morning and whatever, you eat it for your breakfast. And there's not a sense of moralism, right and wrong, but there's a sense of right and wrong, like, what is the right note for the symphony? What are you supposed to do in each moment as in being ordained? I wanted to say ordinance, but that's not the right word. As being ordained or mandated by a divine, highest dimensional self that's going to tell you when to ingest a calorie and how many calories to ingest and then what activity you would do. Because again, if you lived in the woods in a totally natural state, you would be like, wow, I just found all of these cattails and now I'm going to gather this many of them, and now am I going to eat them now? Am I going to eat 1 now? And then I'm going to eat some more for tomorrow for breakfast. You get it? That this becomes a fun game and a fun way of being totally connected to and guided through a complex series of time edifices. That these are not random. When your belly's like, I'm hungry, I want calories, it is not random. And what we're supposed to do is be so tuned in to our appetites that are beyond the arbitrary nature of just like, food goes in here, give me calories, to eat specific calories at specific times. And that's what it really is to be an ascended master. Ascended masters do eat. You eat what you are ordained to eat in any moment. And then also, of course, you share what you are ordained to eat, to share with others in any moment. And that this is almost incomprehensible to the rational, skeptical mind of being able to even navigate the world in that way. So your food becomes non-random. The tools that you use also become non-random. The interactions and relationships that you engage with and cultivate also become non-random. Like I told you, like now I am much more in control of my life and in who I interact with. That if I'm receiving negative emotional residue from an interaction, I don't do that interaction anymore. And so, because that's big. Like, look, if you eat a food and then every time after you eat a food, I have a good, actually, just I don't, because I'm like that analogy is not going to work. Because I wanted to say, like, if you get a cavity every time after you eat a food or whatever it is, but let's just say this, like, look, some interactions with living creatures leave an undesired emotional residue. Some interactions emotionally and socially are degrading or perturbing, or they make you feel angry or sad or unpleasant in some way, and you're not obliged to have those interactions. What an amazing amount of freedom I just reminded you of. Because your churches and your schools, established social circles and other levels of quote unquote polite society will tell you, like, well, you don't get to choose who you interact with based upon the quality of the interaction, like you're obliged, like you must either, like you're related to that person, you must interact with them, or it's your job to interact with them, or they live in your neighborhood or in your building, you are required to interact with them. All of these required interactions. Required interactions equals very poor energetic hygiene, because we're talking about your energy field around you, and your energy field is like your bank account. And if someone requires, like, I require that you interact with this person who has an energy field that is going to drain you, and they're going to take whatever, 20,000 units of your energy, and I require that you interact with them. That's not a very, very good requirement. That, because you can be like, I want to keep my 20,000 units of energy. I actually don't want that guy to siphon it off by having these stupid interactions. Then the stupid interactions, they could be, again, with a relative, a person that you're biologically related to, a community member. It could be unpleasant. You could lose 20,000 units of interaction by having to talk to some community member because whatever, maybe their dog keeps on leaving dog SHIT on your sidewalk. And you have to talk with this person and be like, hey, don't do this anymore, and pick this up, and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it, you've lost 20,000 units of energy. It's very, very poor energetic hygiene. And so sometimes the required interactions are very poor energetic hygiene because they have the end result of leading to greater levels of perturbation. It would be like if you brushed your teeth with candy. Like, that doesn't make your teeth cleaner. It actually just makes things worse. Cheeky, the wonderful, amazing good dog, has come over here. Come here, girl. Gotten out of her dog bed for a nice little, very good, wonderful, amazing, just a little amazing Cheeky break over here. So Cheeky and energetic hygiene. When we're out together, Cheeky, most of the time, initiates socializing and interactivity with the best people. She is such a great little barometer that she can sense people, and she's like, we gotta go talk to this guy over here, or I want to get a hug from this person over here, or I want to, whatever, talk to this little kid over here. And I just let her do it. Like, she's on the leash, takes me around, go to different socializing circumstances that she wants to interact with. Hold on one second. Also, I'm going to give her a little bit of food over here. Oh, well, we'll just leave it recording. Because you know what? I knew this moment would come. And that's why I have this food ready right here, right there. But I bring up Cheeky and her socializing around town because we both come back from our walks and our community interactions energized. So here's how you can tell if you're doing socializing and living your life correctly. What is good energetic hygiene? If you emerge from a circumstance or an interaction feeling drained or perturbed, very poor hygiene. That's like if you eat food and then you feel like diarrhea is gonna come. That was not good food. Those were not good food choices. But if you emerge from a interaction or some whatever activity and you feel energized, you feel positive, happy, and good, then you've done things correctly. So mostly when I talk about clearing, we need to clear away negative emotional imprints from objects, edifices, and experiences so that we can move through the world in a state of frictionless bliss. We rarely have to or wish to clean out good flavors. Rarely do you ever wish to be like, wow, I have such a positive association with this crystal. I have to clear out this positive association. Like, of course not. Of course not. We want to maintain the positive associations. I'm never going to wash this sweater. I have so many positive associations with it. So you want to limit your exposure to the interactions, objects, and people that leave a negative imprint upon you, and gravitate towards and surround yourself by, with, and for the interactions that sustain you and that are positive and life affirming. Again, in the most abstract nature of energy, you're going from being at an angle and moving towards death to being in direct divine alignment and moving towards eternal life. So of all the things that I've spoken to you about today, think about that. Wow, like if I never did another one of those phone prompts at the bank, again, I would be moving towards eternal life. If I left my job where I interacted with like a series of idiots all day long, pardon me for saying that, nonsense interactions with silly people all day long, I would be moving from going towards the membrane of death and being in alignment with my perfect life and with God and with divinity. Moving away from random or non-nourishing foods towards the exact food and exact number and quality of calories that you need in each moment. So these energetic hygiene activities that I'm encouraging you to do are about moving away from random or arbitrary stimuli towards very specific, life-affirming, and coherence-generating stimuli. So I said earlier also, a lot of energetic hygiene happens when you're actually asleep because you have to turn off your cognitive processes. So in the analogy to your physical presence, in your physical presence you have this thing that is called autophagy. Autophagy, that means self-eating. That is basically when your immune system white blood cells dismantle and disintegrate the cells inside of your body that are no longer relevant. Some of them are not relevant because they're your body of 237. Remember we talked about that last week? A previous box of the train cars of reality that you have already jumped out of that box, but your cellular structure from 237 is retained as a residue within your body of 238 and 239 and 240 and whatever, 9:59 at night. You have to dismantle and digest those old versions and aspects of yourself on a cellular level that are no longer relevant. That is what autophagy is, and it happens largely at night, largely during the body's metabolic cleanup processes. It can be exacerbated by not eating a lot of physical food before you go to bed. So if you finish eating at 5 or 6 p.m. and then go to bed at 10 or 11 and you do not eat again until 9 or 10 a.m., then you give your body a very good window for the autophagy, the self-cleaning process. And you can also do this through intermittent fasting or even longer levels of fasting. It's not something you have to do every day, but it is a positive practice to do a couple of times a week or a couple of times a month. And then also there is, I want to say, to go in two directions. Stuff that happens when you're asleep, autophagy. You also can have very positive things that happen when you are awake doing heavy cardio. So energetic hygiene and cardio go together beautifully. I walk on my treadmill all the time. And when I find that when I walk on my treadmill, I feel better emotionally and energetically. And so I'm trying to figure out a good way to describe this to you. If I have a negative emotional interaction, like I sit on this chair over here and I have a bad phone call with someone who grumps and they grump in my ear and then I hang up the phone. I'm like, wow, that was a lot of grumping. Like, of course, I can clear it. I clear the energy. But another thing that helps me to clear energy, walking on my treadmill, cardio. And there's something metabolic because it is an aerobic activity where I'm adding oxygen to the stored emotional residues so that they can be disintegrated, combusted, melted away. So there really is something about the oxygenation process of what is known as cellular respiration when your cells use oxygen to liberate caloric energy. So you do energetic hygiene when you go to sleep at night and you relax your brain, your physical mind, your cognitive processes, and simply allow your body to do its cleanup processes. You also do energetic hygiene when you do cardio. And so it's one of my, clearly I do some things at low levels, like I'm walking very slowly for many hours when I do videos like this, but sometimes I rev up my treadmill and I go faster and I even run, and I find that that really helps me to just burn off the crap. Burn through the crap, burn out the bad feeling states, and get back to feeling better. So if I had a bad phone call, smash down that phone, be like, what a bunch of bullshit. Clear the energy, get on my treadmill and run, and after about 45 minutes, my feelings feel completely different. All right? So energetic hygiene helps you to take out the trash, and you literally feel different. And so let's talk about, how do I sleep at night? Because I don't sleep like a normal person. All right, you guys want to sleep like me? First of all, my dog sleeps with me, but she does not like this very much because I pancake all the time. So what is this all about? Central nervous system. So when I sleep, I have to jump off my treadmill for a minute. I do a lot of body movements. Some of my movements are like this. Arms up, big stretch. Stretching out my back, stretching out my spine. I want you to do a lot of this when you're laying down, because when you're standing up, your spine is still contracted because it's holding up the weight of your torso. But when you lay down and you do these big expansions like this, your whole entire spine is able to elongate, and you are able to move the cerebral spinal fluid from the little spongy accumulations that it's inside of. You can circulate it through. So you want to move your fats, you want to move the stored energy in your lipids, you want to move the stored energy that is in the neurotransmitters of your central nervous system, your cerebral spinal fluid, and also the metabolites that are in your cerebral spinal fluid. When you go to sleep at night, your brain, shrinks down. It goes from being like really plump to being a little bit dehydrated. The energy that was in it during the day when you're doing all these cognitive awake processes, you clean house, take all those metabolites, and they all flow through these little channels that are at the back of your skull, down your neck, and through your spine to be cleaned out. You get your oil changed. Get your oil changed every night, and that means that all of the things that you thought about during the day, you turn off your brain, clean house, change the oil, change out all of those neurotransmitters, and then start the day with a clean, clear head. The physical actions that help you to do this are these big stretches. Big stretches like this while you sleep at night. So here's my dog. My dog is all curled up in a little ball like this, and she's hogging all of the covers too. And then here's me. I'm like in the middle of the night, I'm like, blah! And she looks at me and she's like, you're waking me up. I'm like, I know. And then I pancake. I flip onto the other side, and we sleep for a little while. And then, blah! She's like, you're really waking me up. I'm like, I know. So Princess Cheeky does not really appreciate it that much. You might also have spouses or partners that might not appreciate it that much, but just to explain, it's part of energetic hygiene. So doing a lot of that, basically things that move your body fluids at night. So the big spinal stretches are a big part of it, and then some of the other things that I do in terms of like moving my body at night while I'm asleep, or as I go through my different sleep cycles. So you're also, for energetic hygiene, you will also want to stretch during your day. So I don't just stretch at night while I'm in my pajamas, sleeping in bed, but I stretch when I wake up in the morning, because this is also releasing metabolites from your skeleton, from your muscles of your skeleton. So stretching, and also using massage tools. Where's my massage tools? It's this crystalline wand that I use to be able to massage my body, and also various different levels of stretching, because all of this stretching helps to release metabolites that are in the fluids inside of your cells and surrounding your cells, like in your joints and in your fluids of your body. Energetic hygiene has to do with liberating those metabolites. So stretching is a major part of that. And then the other thing is, so for me, energetic hygiene has a lot to do with what I perceive in my environment visually. And so I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago when I was living in San Diego, I had a roommate who just had like all of her accumulation of her possessions of her life, everything stored in the apartment with me. And I remember the day that she brought all of that stuff in, that it just felt like this heavy, oppressive weight was just like ka-chunk into our living space. And what I'm trying to get across to you here, I'm not trying to simply be unkind to a former roommate, is to get across to you, as your light body awakens, as you become more energetically present and perceptive, you're gonna feel and ingest a lot more from your environment. And just like you should be very selective about the people that you interact with and relationships and who's in your environment as a person or living being, same thing with objects. Because for me to be surrounded by all of these objects that were all like on the level of a thrift store or some kind of, whatever, used antique store, used item store, all of those objects had a huge amount of emotional energy attached to them. And every place that I looked, and I would be like, there's an object with a lot of emotional energy, and there's another object with a lot of emotional energy. Everything that I looked at, every place where my eyes went, I felt the energy of all of those things. It was like living in a thrift store. It was hugely unhealthy for me. I actually think it was hugely unhealthy for my roommate also, and I think that her life would improve immensely if she could divest herself of these items that she's been carrying around. They don't call it possessions for nothing. Like, they possess you. A lot of those objects had negative emotional associations associated with them, and people. Negative people, and some of those people had already passed on. This is big stuff, because if you can, my friend, other friend who's passed on, but other friend can read an object and tell whether it was used as an attempted murder weapon, believe me, non-embodied, non-alive people can come into you through your associations with objects that they might have left behind. This is deep stuff, energetic hygiene as it relates to residual consciousnesses of what you would call ghosts. So I actually did buy this glass secondhand, but I cleared it, of course. And so when I cleared it, what that means is this object now only has associated with it my freshies, fresh energetic associations. This is Aurora's glass. This is not somebody else's glass that Aurora purchased and is now using. Big distinction. Because let's say somebody died, whatever, Aunt Ethel died, and then, somebody sold her glass secondhand. And let's say Aunt Ethel is not at rest, and she's like, oh, every time you look at that glass, I want to come into your neurology. I want to be present in your mind. I'm like, I do not agree to that. I have strong energetic boundaries. I don't want you inside of me. So either I don't buy the item that Aunt Ethel is still hugely attached to, or I buy the item and I clear it. And as I clear it, the topic is release of metabolites. Release metabolites from your body. Energy that is the end result of the digestion process of the things you've been through. Release metabolites of people's lives. Because if Aunt Ethel is dead, she's dead. And this wine glass is no longer relevant to her life. Let it go. Go on your journey. Big stuff. So if I can also emphasize, and I'll get to your questions in chat, let it go. I know that there is a song that we could burst into singing. Let it go. Let it go. But let it go. Freedom. A huge aspect of freedom in your life is about release of emotional residues. Some of them can be positive. My sweater, my dog and my cat that slept on that sweater, or the time that I used it as a pillow on a train ride. But that's positive stuff that I don't want to let go, but that I will, I will savor those memories. But then there's stuff that I do want to let go. I'm sure that every single one of you has a big bucket of stuff that you would like to let go, that you don't want to carry around with you. That can be stuff from your childhood, negative affiliations from your family or your ancestors, crap from your community, stuff that you didn't even intentionally bring into your life, but that you've been schlepping around with you. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you would like to let go. Energetic hygiene is the conscious act of letting those things go. Just like when you consciously brush your teeth, you're like, I am consciously scrubbing away that garlic that I ate at lunch today. This conscious removal of that energy from you. So when I do my saging, and I sage the 4 directions, and I sage the above and the below, and I sage the within, I am letting stuff go that no longer serves, or maybe it never served. Maybe it once fit, but it does not fit anymore. Maybe it was always hugely inappropriate and burdensome. It's a huge amount of freedom there. What about stuff from your family? What if you're like, you know something, I release this, I'm letting it go from my family, but your family might be like, that's an heirloom. Be like, I know, and it's hideous, let it go. At a certain point, you are free to let go of these hideous reminders that are quote-unquote heirlooms of the people that came before you, and just, to get closure on that roommate. I think a lot of what the items that she carried around with her in her life were quote-unquote heirlooms, but were quite hideous from family members. And having strong emotional boundaries and doing the energetic hygiene work means you get to create a barrier between yourself and your family, where you're like, I'm me and you're you. I do me, you do you. If you want to have hideous family heirlooms, that's great, but I don't have to have them in my life. Get it? It is a huge amount of freedom to navigate the world in that way. Because if you don't have those choices and boundaries to set verbally, you can't even be around those people. You can't even be around the biological family. Be like, look, I can't even deal with you people. I need to have my own space. I can't even talk to you. But when you have the capacity to use your magic word, you know what the magic word is. I already told it to you. N-O. When you have the capacity to say no, you can have people in your life and you can say no to them. Like, would you like to have this large, hideous piece of furniture from Aunt Ethel in your house? And you can say no. And that's it. That's it. And the answer is no. Or how about a personality characteristic from Aunt Ethel? No. How about Aunt Ethel's diabetes? No. How about any of these other things that are even not from a relative that you would not like to have either in your physical space or in your emotional realm or in your body, because your emotional realm and your body are very tied together? You can say no. That's big. If I use the example of a conversation with someone who's grumping at me, I can actually say no to them. If they call me up and they're like, Aurora, I'm very grumpy and I want to grump on you right now, I could be like, no thank you, click. That can happen too. Imagine how free you would be in your life if you could do that. So when I first came here as Aurora, I was very, very big, go along to get along, because I didn't yet have the foundation of self-empowerment to be able to say the magic word. I very much had to go along to get along until I found a life for myself where I could say, no, I don't want to have that furniture in my house. I don't want to have that relationship in my life. I don't want to interact with that person. Get it? Like when I did custom framing, I needed that job. I had to serve the customers. I didn't get to say, no, I don't want to talk to you. You're inconvenient to me. My answer is no. I had to change my life and become empowered until I got to the point where I could say no to people and say, no, I don't want to talk with that person. I'm not obliged to. So this is my message to each one of you. You have to facilitate or structure your life to be able to make it possible for you to say no. You have to cultivate levels of personal empowerment and a foundation of independence so that you can say, no, I don't want that. I don't want that person. I don't want to interact with you. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to do that. And then you can take the consequences, right? Because like if you say no at certain jobs, you will lose the job. Or if you say no to certain clients, then you won't have them as clients anymore. So I'm infinitely aware of all of this. I don't want you to simply jump out the window with no safety net. What I want you to do is build your life. Energetic hygiene has to do with building your life so that you can create and set positive emotional boundaries. And so setting positive emotional boundaries, the next aspect of energetic hygiene is clearing residues. Then we're going back to this. The guy that asked me 10 years ago wanted to know about essentially how to live longer and better. This is how to live longer and better. You know, I could tell you a whole thing about what to eat, how to live longer and better, like this many carbohydrates and this much protein and this. Like that will help you to live longer and better, but you know what's really going to help you to live longer and better? Setting emotional boundaries so that you only have the interactions and emotional relationships in your life that you want to have, only have the family characteristics in your life that you want to have, only have the professional edifices that you want to have, and then of the calories that you choose to eat, you choose the specific calories at exactly the right time. And that's very, very different than eating the frozen Jenny Craig. Like this is like a diet meal that comes and then you have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner and they're all frozen diet meals. That's very different. That is actually not how you achieve longevity and coherence and live very well with a healthy body. Longevity and coherence and living well with a healthy body can at times look like eating a lavender flavored chocolate eclair. But not every day. But sometimes it does. But sometimes it also might look like, you know, eating some other amazing form of food. It's different every time. Your requirements of what is healthy and brings you to longevity is different every time. But what it really comes down to are levels of personal empowerment. So the Jenny Craig diet meals, they are not empowering. Someone else has made these decisions for you. Real energetic hygiene, and I'm going to get to your questions in the chat now, has to do with being empowered to make your own choices and to make your own decisions. And that is also, come here, give me hugs. That is also, a big part of what freedom is, and also a big part of better quality of existence. So when you are not in control of your life, and you don't get to say the magic word, and you don't get to set boundaries, and you don't get to make your own choices, your existence is actually pretty crap. Even if you might have pleasantries, it's not real pleasantries. It's like, someone else chose to give you an eclair, but then the next day they could choose to feed you broken glass. Like, it's not really a great life. It's 100% out of your control. And energetic hygiene and what makes a great life is empowerment. Personal levels of empowerment and the capacity that you generate for yourself to make choices and choose the direction you go, to self-direct in life. That is what brings you towards coherence and longevity. Being able to make your own choices in life. So, if you look at whatever, so-and-so fancy person or famous person or whatever, whomever is out there, if you look at them and you think like, oh, like they look so young and beautiful, you think it's because of whatever snail moisturizer or whatever fancy, whatever gold-plated moisturizer or some kind of cosmetic procedure. No, it's because they're in control of their lives. If they're doing celebrity right, I recognize some famous or wealthy people are not in control of their lives or making their own choices for themselves. But for many people, having greater levels of notoriety and wealth means they get to make their own choices, means that they're not custom framing. You get it? The idea is you're making better choices for yourself so that you are working at jobs that are personally fulfilling, in relationships that are personally fulfilling. making food choices that are personally fulfilling. Everything about how you live and do your day becomes personally fulfilling, as opposed to the way I feel on that stupid phone when I have to call the bank, which is soul death. And in this world, almost everyone is like, soul death is normalized. Hey kid, chomp a cigar, get out there and get a job. Get some soul death. That's what you're supposed to do. It's like, no, that is not what you're supposed to do. Okay, so over to the questions. Aurelia says, this explains so much. I have a hyper awareness of space-time coordinates. Beautiful, beautiful. Pedro says, is the sun and ascended beings using the flying rainbow lasagna, or is it used just here in the material world? Wow. And also asks, is it the same to use table salt or rock salt, Himalayan or sea salt? So I'll answer the second question first, because that's easy. Salt is all different qualitative differences completely. So salt that is like Morton's iodized salt is heavily processed, is very chemically treated, is not ideal to put into your body at all, and most of the sodium that's in your frozen TV dinners and stuff like that is totally not life affirming and is not very good for your body at all. But the Morton's table salt is totally fine for some industrial purpose, like to be able to clear your environment or make a bowl of salt or something like that. Like, I just would not put that stuff into my body. Or like if you need to scrub out your bathtub, that salt is perfectly fine for scrubbing. That will get rid of soap scum off of your porcelain tub. But so for some household cleaning duties and for some esoteric cleaning duties, the regular iodized table salt is perfectly fine. But if you are going to ingest salt, please only eat sea salt. Sea salt contains vital micronutrients. Please get your sea salt from an area of our world that is less polluted than other areas of the world. I have to say this because almost all of our oceans are polluted, but north of France and Scotland are pretty clean in terms of their salt collection. Maldon, M-A-L-D-O-N, and we've got some beautiful participants in this class that are from that area of Scotland. So I'm a huge fan of your sea salt. Thank you for being in our class. I like Maldon salt, and also there's one that is called Fleur de Sel du Camargue, that is from the north of France. These are positive places to get it. And do not ever eat salt that is evaporated from the bay water from San Francisco Bay or some of these other places where literally, because battleships and other ocean-going vessels leak oil into the water, and then they evaporate that water and use the sea salt. You don't want oil-encrusted sea salt. You have to be very selective. But for any salt that's going to go in your body, you want the natural sea salt that has the micronutrients that are in it. And then, yes, for your salt clearing of your environment or anything like that, Himalayan. And Himalayan is not that great to eat because they use dynamite and some other explosives in order to be able to mine the salt from the deposits in the mountains there. So again, you would have to do a huge amount of research about what company you're getting your Himalayan salt from, and whether there's any kind of gunpowder residues from the blasting and explosives, and whether there's environmental impact, blah, blah, blah. But just a chunk of Himalayan salt in your environment or as those salt lamps is wonderful and fantastic. And where I live, there's a place not far from here called Santa Barbara where they have a salt cave. I've never been there, but for healing, they have a whole underground cave that is encrusted with salt, natural salt, salt on the ground, salt lamps, salt everything, and you go in there and you just sit for a couple of hours. That is supposed to be hugely healing and regenerative, and it has to do with the clearing properties that being around all of that salt has to do with. So in a pristine world, we would all love to be in salt caves or soak in the ocean or someplace like that, but the ocean just has a lot of contaminants right now that just makes it not that great for all of that ocean water, but otherwise that would be very, very cleansing for us. So the other question is a beautiful question, whether the sun and the ascended beings are using the flying rainbow lasagna itself, or is it something that is just for the material world? So the flying rainbow lasagna is definitely not only for alive people in the material world. It is for anybody that has a toroidal energy field, has or uses DNA, or essentially has or uses energy. So yes, the sun and the stars, light itself, and the ascended masters all can and do and or will align with and be affected by the flying rainbow lasagna. But what's the most accurate way to say it is that I am lasagnaing on them and through them and on their network. So the sun and the stars are a neurology, a connected series of data points and light and intelligence. And I'm Aurora, and I'm an impulse on that neurology already. And what I am doing is creating these new patterns of waveforms in that neurology. So the sun and the ascended masters are being lasagnified. I am lasagnaing through their networks. They're being rearranged and recontextualized by the impulses that I am doing, but then it's up to them about whether they take the lasagna and run with it, exactly like you guys. So whether you have a body or you have no body, and you are a waveform presence of pure energy, you still have free will. Everybody in this world, I offer to you flying rainbow lasagna, and you get to make a choice about whether you align with it, whether you do it for yourself, how you feel about it, how much of an impact it has on your life and on your journey. And the same exact thing is happening with the sun, the stars, photons, light, pure consciousness, the galaxy itself. The flying rainbow lasagna is now something that they have access to, but it is their free will choice. Like, here's this dress. Do you like this dress? If you want to, you can put on this dress. But Aurora, flying rainbow lasagna, is not going to force you to put on this dress. Sun, stars, photons, consciousness, all have to make a choice about whether they want to do the flying rainbow lasagna dance or wear that dress themselves. Aurelia says, I have the same sense. So I think you're talking about the sense of being able to read objects. It's literally one of these clairsentiences. Pedro says, sounds like feng shui. Should I put a divider around my bed to shield it from energy sources? Okay, so feng shui is ancient woo. And so it's actually, feng shui is a very, very real thing that's then been, what is the word for it when you not categorize something, but you standardize it. So feng shui is the intuitive, valid perception of energy from energetically sensitive people that then has been standardized into a series of always and nevers, and that then has been commodified into woo. And that's the only challenge, because now you're in this world where people are not mostly energetically perceptive, and someone can come along and say, I will rearrange your furniture for you, pay me $5. That's the woo. Because you can't necessarily say, well, like, you're going to read the energy of my place because it is not standardized, and you're going to tell me where to put my furniture that you don't know if it's necessarily better because it is not standardized. And so, because if you are not energetically sensitive, then you don't know if what they're doing is actually an improvement. So that's the only real issue if someone is asking you for money for their feng shui rearrangements in your life, because you don't know if they're actually perceptive or if they're actually making something better. So some amount of skepticism is warranted. But the basis of what feng shui is valid, but then it needs to be generated in a valid way in your life. So the concept is valid. The way that it's presented in people's lives is not always valid. How much people money charge for it is not always valid either. But yes, the answer is you should absolutely assess your bedroom, your whole entire living space for optimum energy, and whether you call it feng shui or not. So like there's different things in feng shui about like where your front door is and where you put a mirror and all these things. Like not all of that is valid, but some things are very, very valid. So in terms of your bedroom, you should clear out your bedroom so that you're only marinating in the things that you want to think about or dream about at night in your bedroom. And so like let's say if you have a business, you run a home business, right? Hold on, let me just get a little bit more water here. If you run a home business, the worst thing is for you to have like your computer and your inventory in your bedroom. Because you know what? You're going to be trying to fall asleep and you're just going to be thinking about all of your orders that you have to fulfill. You're like, yep, I have to knit 12 sweaters and I have to send them off to this person. I have to invoice this, I have to invoice that. And it's because that's what's in your energy field. So you should have a home office, but it just should not be in your room where you sleep at night. Because when you sleep at night, you need to do energetic hygiene and clear out your metabolites of the day. So have your computer and your order fulfillment and your inventory and your invoices in a different area of your house. Your bedroom should not be filled with the choreful things that you need to do every day, all day long. Your bedroom should be a restful sanctuary. And then you have a different area of your house where you do your inventory and stuff like that. Because when you look at it, you're going to want to do it. So if I'm in my bedroom at night and I'm looking at a pile of paperwork and I'm trying to fall asleep, all I'm going to think about is the paperwork that I have to do or the responsibilities that I have to do or whatever it is. So it's been very, very essential for me to move my stuff out of my bedroom. And I also will tell you, so this is this painting that I'm painting on right now. What I do sometimes at the end of my day of painting is move my painting into my bedroom and then I stare at it while I'm going to sleep at night. But then even that sometimes is a little bit too obsessive because I'm like, you know, sometimes you have to just turn off your brain and not think and not be responsible to anything. And that your nighttime is when you're supposed to do that. And you need to claim that boundary so that, because I'm just obsessed as an artist. Or you know what else I'll do? If I'm working on a music song during the day and then I'm going to sleep at night, I listen to it on my headphones while I'm going to sleep at night, I fall asleep listening to that song. That also is technically not good energetic hygiene. Because what I should do is I should be like, okay, good, I'm done with that song for right now, turn off my music and go to sleep. And then wake up in the morning with fresh ears and do things with fresh ears. So in many ways, that's being an obsessive artist, burning the candle at both ends and not doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Pedro says, pooties are a microaggression. Good one. Totally. You got it. I know we got to make fun of this. Aurelia says, the world of unwanted ads is so siphoning. Absolutely. So you opened the door on something very positive for us to be able to talk about. Unwanted ads, like these are all emotional promptings, and it's very hard to have good energetic hygiene when something is like throwing black gross stuff on like dirty, you know, gross greasy stuff onto you. That's what advertising is. It's what so many of these intrusive communications in our world are about. Hold on a second, I just have to do this because there's a truck with flashing lights outside that I just cannot have go into my eyes right now. Things that you're exposed to just as part of the modern world that sometimes are beyond your willpower, and then you have to clean them out. You're like, yep, I saw that thing and it gave me this emotional impression and now I have to clean it out. So very challenging. Like maybe you want to read a website but it has pop-up ads, and all of those pop-up ads give you an emotional response, which you then have to process, metabolize, digest, and clean out. And there's a whole science behind those pop-up ads, just like there's a whole science behind the food chemistry of making Doritos irresistible. I mean, Doritos have been chemically manufactured to be irresistible. That means that once you eat the first one, you will continue eating the rest until the bag is done. And same thing with those pop-up ads and a lot of these other things that are attention siphons in our world. They're intentionally engineered to be what they are and do what they are. Even when there's something silly like lose belly fat now, like you can't help it. Like you look at that ad, you're like, I don't want to look at this belly flab. It's not going to help me in my life. I don't want to have anything to do with it. But it is there in the sense of it catches your attention. So now you recognize that there's a big connection between energetic hygiene and attention. Your tendril of attention, what you are connecting to, what you are thinking about, and then the need to have energetic hygiene or brush your teeth. Because what you are sending out your tendril of attention to, what you're touching upon, what you're thinking about and absorbing as impressions, is like what you're eating with your food. And then after all those impressions, then you have to clean up. So, it can be fast, because sometimes I don't even really watch stuff that's like very whatever inundating, but I still see stuff on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and it might be stuff about like, music awards or whatever it is, and it'll like show all these different things, or like whatever, celebrity red carpet, and all those things come inside of me, and then I look at them and I'm like, I have to go brush my teeth now. Like that's it. Like that just was like the ultimate garlic bad breath. I'm like, I have the worst breath now, I have to brush. So yeah, having to clean that stuff out. I don't even really necessarily want to have those impressions come inside of me. However, just by being in this world, they come inside of me. So I could fast. I could be like, that's it, no social media for me, and then I won't have these nonsense things come inside of me. But if I did that, I would not be sharing a lot of what I have to share in the world. So I do Facebook, and I do YouTube, and I do these as ways of having a platform to share my voice. But I also am very aware that, as much as I'm sending stuff out, it's a two-way street. And so, you know what? Like, if you go out in the world and you have experiences and blah, 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 and you come home and you take a shower, it should be just simple. Like, yep, I'm not afraid to go out into the world because I actually have soap and I can come home and take a shower and wash all of that stuff off. So it shouldn't really be so daunting. But it can feel that way. It can feel like, I don't want to touch anything or be touched by anything. Just stay away from me, because it can be so overwhelming to be constantly having to clear out the emotional imprints of stuff that are coming inside of us, inside of a person, against your will or without conscious invitation. Hold on, let me drink a little bit of water and not get to your question. Marie says, how bad is it that my internet modem is in my bedroom? Great question. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So of all of the things that I experience in terms of demonic interference and just all sorts of assaults on my energy field and emotions and spiritual attainment, the cell phone, computer, and modem stuff is like 10 spots down from the other stuff that is spiritual consciousness and energy based, and stuff that is implanted in the body at this point. So the wetware, the nano stuff, that is the electronic architecture inside of the physical body. I think that stuff is the hardest stuff to kind of get past. That it's ubiquitous, it's inside of you, it goes with you wherever you go. But I've developed all these different techniques to fight against it and negate it and turn it off. So when I do that, then I'm able to get into my levels of spiritual attainment very, very easily. If I simply turned off my cell phone on airplane, turned off my iPad, turned off my Wi-Fi router, I would still have all sorts of problems with demonic interference. So, in your quest for spiritual freedom, focus on the battle against the nano wetware in the body, the consciousness hijacking, the attention hijacking, the things that are directly in the human neurology. The externalized technology is secondary to the stuff that is implanted internally in your body. And if you can master the stuff that has been implanted internally in your body, the phone and Wi-Fi router become totally unintimidating. So that is what I learned, that through my own spiritual efforts, I could get to levels of empowerment and freedom at fighting out the stuff that was trying to come into my central nervous system. And then I wasn't intimidated if my house has a Wi-Fi router in it or cell phone in my home or whatever like that. But I'll also tell you, I don't sleep with my cell phone in my bedroom. Sometimes if I need to use it as my alarm clock, I'll set the alarm and I'll put it outside of my bedroom. That's better actually, because you actually have to get out of bed in order to turn off your alarm clock. But all of these things, like if it's possible, you turn off your Wi-Fi router at night. If it's possible, put your phone outside of your bedroom for while you're sleeping at night. If it's possible, because I told you I fall asleep with my headphones on listening to my music. Not ideal, because I've got my computer right next to me in my bedroom. You know, none of this is ideal, energetic hygiene. But I recognize the convenience of why a lot of people do this. So just try to keep your electronics outside of your bedroom. But the real thing is you got to clear out your inner stuff, because even if you have your Wi-Fi router is off and your phone is in the other room, they have the capacity to do, I call it garbage dreams. They implant garbage dreams. It is 100% just nonsense, fabricated, artificial stimulations of the pineal gland while you're asleep. And it is literally why I sleep with these protective crystals on a headband, either on my forehead like this or over my eyes like this, to keep like no garbage, no dumping. I'm just trying to sleep here. Because that's what I would find, that if I didn't do that, that then I would wake up and I would have to spend the first hour of my day just clearing out garbage, stuff that got implanted into my mind while I was asleep and in a receptive state. And when you're asleep, you're supposed to actually be clearing out. Energetic hygiene, clearing stuff out of you, not getting more stuff into you. And it's not just me, it's everyone in this whole entire world that is susceptible to these negative consciousness, malevolence manipulators that can reach into your mind while you're asleep. It's not just me. So you got to do something to put up Merkabahs and shields of protection for yourself for while you sleep, because you have to drop your guard at a certain point, and that's when they're like, oh good, they dropped their guard, now let me try to F with them as hard as I possibly can. So Wi-Fi router in the bedroom is not great. You can get this copper impregnated fabric and put that over your router. You can also get basically different types of Faraday cages, different ways of being able to diminish that signal. And also sometimes what you can do is just put your Wi-Fi router on a power strip and turn off the power strip at the end of the day. But some systems have difficulty rebooting if you're constantly rebooting them every morning. So it depends on your own internet provider and whether that will actually work for you. But it definitely helps. Turning off the frequency and being less exposed to that stuff definitely helps. But for me, what was groundbreaking was the spiritual attainment that then meant like I could have my phone with me or not with me, and it didn't make a difference. And I do these little experiments sometimes too. Like sometimes I will do going for a walk with my dog but without my cell phone on me, and I'll see if I can do this like inner shielding and clearing just on the spiritual level and kind of be unperceived by this thing. And then sometimes I'll carry my phone with me and see if it makes a difference. And yeah, it's all muscle building on the most inner level possible. So Pedro says, very tasty lasagna today. Love the lasagna. Thank you for that recognition, and love back to you. I really do hope that the things that I talked about today are practical and effective, and then you're able to apply them to your own existences, because I was again a little bit on the fence about whether I should even spend this time talking about this, how it relates to lasagna and how I can be the most helpful. So I hope that this class has been very helpful towards you. And if there's any other questions or comments or specifics, like if you have any specific questions, either now or people that are catching this as an archive, ask me and I will respond to it about like what levels of energetic hygiene, like what do you need? So, all right. So, if I was wearing a dress and something bad happened to me when I was in that actual dress, yes, I would wash the dress in the laundry with laundry soap. But also, I would clear that dress so that it would not maintain the emotional residue, so that every time I look at that dress, I don't think about the bad thing that happened to me when I was in that dress. So it could be a trauma or a breakup or whatever it is. Like, I wore that dress and then broke up with my boyfriend, not me, but somebody else. Whatever, bad thing happened, and then how can I ever wear that dress again? It's a nice dress. You should be able to wear it again. So what you have to do is clear the energy that you associate with that dress as a reminder of an experience in space-time coordinates that you went through. And then when you are able to clear it, then the dress becomes just a dress. Then it becomes just an abstract piece of clothing again. And that it's hugely empowering to be able to do this, because also you won't be ruled by the negative things that you've had in the past. You won't live in fear of, well, what will happen if a bad thing happens? Like, this is my favorite glass, and what would I do if something bad happens and then it becomes harmlessly crapped up? It's crapped up and then it will never be good again and I'll have to buy a new one, which is the American way. You get it? In America, it's like, this thing has gotten dirty. Get rid of it, buy a new one, including a car. In America, it's like, this upholstery in this car has gotten whatever, slightly dirty. Let me buy a new car. It's like, that's very wasteful. It is. Americans are very wasteful. But I know it's not the only place in the world where people are that way. It encourages consumerism, is what I'm trying to say. So instead of being endlessly entwined in consumerism, and every time saying, I broke up with my boyfriend in that dress, time to buy a new dress, or something bad happened, I had a bad conversation on that phone, time to get a new phone, or whatever it is, you clear stuff. You clear stuff out, and then you're not at the mercy or at the whim of the bad stuff that has happened to you. And then every time, because otherwise, like, every time you look at a thing, you're like, oh, there's that bad thing that happened. That bad thing happened over there. Let's not look at it. It's like in that level of reality, you're constantly running away from something that is a negative stimulus. And then this all really does relate to the process and experience of ascension, because in ascension, you're not running away from negative stimuli anymore. You're not running away from the memory of bad relationships or traumas or things that are negative memories or anything like that. Like, really, just really ask yourself, guys, what would your life be like if you didn't have any buttons left to push? And that would mean, like, someone press your buttons here. Remember that time you didn't send that birthday card in 3rd grade? You're supposed to feel bad now. It's like, what if you don't feel bad? What if you remember that you had that experience, but you don't actually feel bad? Or somebody was at the wrong wedding, you sat at the wrong table, the wrong thing happened. And then you're like, I actually don't feel bad. The constant stimulation of what's supposed to be negative memories to negative memory juice. Give me your negative memory juice. Give me your negative memory juice. And there's no juice. That is literally what ascension is. Marie says, I'm so happy to tell you that I successfully used FRL to manifest a solution to a huge obstacle today, getting the IRS bill paid on time. Awesome! I'm cheering. I'm so happy for you. Beautiful and well done. That is how you do it. So you can, of course, share any details that you would like to, but I don't know, it's kind of a public forum for talking about IRS stuff, but I'm very, very happy about that. And Christina says, thank you so much, Aurora. As always, I'm hearing that energetic clearing is hygiene. It's a way of life, not just for when one is in the middle of being food for pooties. Your insight is the best. Much love. Love received and love back. And yes, well synopsized. Energetic hygiene is a lifestyle. And it is a way that we go through every minute of the day. And having those skills means that you don't have to worry about if somebody pees and poops all over you or a project or something that you're doing. So let's also use it in this way. If I'm working on a song and I'm like, working on a song, let's say I share it with somebody and they pee and poop all over it. They're like, hey, it is the worst song ever, and I hate you too. Of course, my shoulders would go down like this. I would make this sad face, but then you know what I would do? I would do some energetic hygiene. And I would clear the residues of that. And I would also clear the residues from my piano and from my headphones and from my song. And I would rescue that song and I would go back into it, because otherwise it empowers the person who said some negative crap to you. And also, I might really purge that person out of my life, because if they were a really, really close friend, and even if they were a close friend, and if they said something to me that was like genuine, and if they said like genuinely to me, thank you for sharing that song with me, but it's the worst song I've ever heard in my whole entire life, I would really have to reassess whether I would want that person in my life. I'd go through the whole emotional procedure. I'd be like, like when you told me that really like threw me for a loop, and I didn't like it, and it made me feel this and it made me feel that, and I don't know if I want to have you in my life anymore. It would take a lot for me to be able to keep that person in my life. If they said like, hey, like, I'm just giving you an honest assessment of that song, and if you don't like the answer, don't ask me to tell me about your music. I'd be like, okay, like, but I would be very protective of myself. I might not bring my music to them in the future if they are going to respond to it in that way. Like, that's part of choosing who you marinate with, and choosing how do we define what it is to be a friend. Should a friend say to you, like, you look terrible in that outfit, your ass looks huge? Should a friend say to you, like, you have a giant pimple on your nose, you're looking bad today? I don't really know if that is how we define friendship or partnership or whatever, being in mothers, sisters, grandparents, being in a family. Like, you don't always have to be just nice to someone, but you don't have to go out of your way to be needlessly cruel to them. So I think like this is all part of boundaries and self-protection. Like, it's really essential to protect yourself from exposure to unhealthy interactions and things that you have to clean yourself up from. So if you don't eat a lot of junk food, then you don't have to do a detox. And if you don't have a lot of negative relationship interactions, then you don't have to do a lot of energetic hygiene. So if I compare myself now to who I am, 15 years later from who I was when I did custom framing, yeah, I spend much less of my time and energy on energetic hygiene, because I'm not spending 8 hours of my day interacting with people who are just wildly inappropriate or really negative or really non-nourishing, and that used to be such a big part of my day. So limiting exposure is a huge part of it. And then you choose who you share yourself with. Some people would just like randomly come up to you and be like, you're ugly and I hate you. But mostly we make choices about who we talk with on the phone, who is considered a friend, who is a family member, who is a spouse or a partner, and the way that they treat you. And energetic hygiene has a lot to do with choosing about, like, did they just dump a load of crap on your head? And you're not obliged to just stand around and present yourself for crap dumpage. That's actually not what it is to be a friend, lover, spouse, partner, or family member. No. So then to speak in positives, relationship is supposed to be nourishing and fulfilling and uplifting. And, if a person went out of their way to tell me how much they hate one of my songs, that I would really only accept that if they went out of their way on 25 other occasions to tell me how much they loved 25 of my other songs. Then I would say, okay, like, it's balanced. It's fair, because not everything that I write in terms of music is a great song, but can't just be wildly negative without any balance on the positive stuff. So there, I would really have to make a genuine assessment, because I don't like the way it feels to have a bunch of doo-doo dumped on my head, and I bet that none of you guys do either. And I'll even go so far as to assert that I bet that each of you thrives on praise, and that you feel a lot better and happier in your life when people give you positive feedback on things that you've genuinely done that are genuinely valuable, and that the criticism and negativity is rarely productive and is rarely desirable and is rarely requested. I usually do not go to people and be like, please give me some negative feedback on this song. It's actually never. In case you don't know me, guys, at this point, like, no, I actually don't want you to tell me how much you hate me and hate my music. I actually would much rather hear how much you love me and love my music. Yes, because I don't feel like that's making me a better musician at all, to just get dumped upon. So please apply that to your own life. Please apply that to your own creative efforts, whatever efforts to cook or create a positive, home environment, or whatever you're doing and sending out into the world. Like, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but I want you to have positive energy boundaries and do positive energy hygiene too. And that a lot of that means, like, you're not required to surround yourself with negativity with the auspices that the person is just being honest. Like, I'm being negative, but I'm just being honest. Like, I think that that's, in a lot of ways, just an excuse for cruelty, and that it's really not needed. Lisa says, thank you for everything. No self-love, be your own Shiro. I love it. No. I have to read this correctly. She writes, no, the word is self-love, be your own Shiro. First of all, I love Shiro. And second of all, yes. Saying no is a form of self-love. And it is the magic word. You master that word, magical things happen in life, including the desire to keep going rises immeasurably. Once you learn, like, wow, like, I can just say no, then you're like, I do want to stay alive. Life is amazing. Life is a fantastic adventure. Just because of that magic word. You can say no to a lot of things, and then life becomes a magical adventure. So I will actually wrap this all up and maybe take Cheeky for a little walk in the garden. Energetic hygiene. Some of that means the capacity to clear out emotional residues that you've already accumulated. Some of it is the capacity to avoid achieving emotional residues by not interacting with things, objects, people, or edifices, and avoiding them entirely. And energetic hygiene is also something that you're able to do, let's say fine-tuning. You're fine-tuning and making choices in freedom about your life, about what you want your life to look like. Energetic hygiene is the direct precursor to ascension, because ascension is when we are using our reality creation mechanism consciously as individuals and as a planet, like that's what this painting is over here, and stepping forward into a totally redefined reality. On the road to that totally redefined reality, you begin to redefine your day-to-day interactions and the quality of your interactions. Energetic hygiene has everything to do with redefining the quality of those interactions, making them much, much better. Yes. And if they're not better, then, like, stay away from me, because you can't be here. So that's part of energetic hygiene. The final chapter is some things are just irredeemable, and they're not ever going to be fun or pleasant or something that you should interact with. Some objects, items, edifices, and people are always going to be what they are going to be, and you're just going to want to consistently avoid them. So sometimes the answer is that you will never eat blah blah food because it's never going to be good. It's never going to be. Sometimes you will never interact with blah blah person. It will never be a positive interaction. Sometimes you will never wear blah blah dress. It's never going to fit you. So that is also acceptable energetic hygiene. All of this moves beyond levels of social judgment or moralism or ethics, as it is written in human philosophy. Just energy. Just energy. It goes beyond the rightness or wrongness of wearing a dress. Is it right or wrong to eat a chocolate eclair? The answer to that is, depending upon which diets you follow, the always and nevers of whether it's right. The answer is when you are a free being and you are on the level of ascended mastery and moving into these levels of sovereignty, there is not a blanket statement. There are not always and nevers. Sometimes you eat the chocolate eclair. Sometimes you eat something completely different. Sometimes you interact with this person over here. Sometimes you have a completely different interaction or definition of socialization. It's different every time. There's actually not off the rack. There's not a pre-existing set of behavioral parameters or a recipe of what you should always do. That's kind of like the lazy man's way of getting by. You have to innovate every time. You have to be new and innovative, unpredictable, and make something that is exactly the right solution for that day at that time. That requires a huge amount of artistry. Like for me, if I'm like, I can't just play a song I've already written, I have to write a new song today. That's the best song for today. That's actually a lot. That's actually a lot of pressure. But if you're good, you can do it. But then tomorrow you're like, no, you can't play yesterday's song. You have to write a whole new song, because then it's the totally new context of what is going on. So all of this relates because what I've been teaching you about is energetic hygiene, your energy body, and your time body. Your time body is made up of an abstract series of possibilities and probabilities, and your context changes and shifts from day to day. And what were the right possibilities from yesterday are not going to fit for today at all. So you must be continually flexible, continually reassessing yourself, continually in levels of self-love and non-judgment as to what is right for you now and what have you done up into that moment, and also non-judgmental in terms of always and nevers, because if you're like, no, I never eat chocolate eclairs, but then on this occasion that is what you are supposed to eat, you have to allow yourself to be able to do that. So then we move past some of these levels of self-censorship or dietary restrictions where you say, nope, I only eat this, I never eat this. Or in all circumstances, I always do this, but I never do this. Or I will only do this in life and I will never do this in life. Because in real freedom, what you end up doing is moving beyond these externally imposed behavioral control systems and philosophies of always and never, and you move into the spontaneous innovations of what is appropriate in every moment. And that's ascension. That's because in ascension, you do not play canned ham, a joke. You do not play pre-existing music. In ascension, everybody is innovating, and you must come up with something new at all times. You're never in the same room twice. You're never in the same circumstance twice. So if all of this sounds like crushingly burdensome, it's not. Actually, it is so amazing, fun, and comfortable to be free. It is not burdensome. When I predict this, when you wake up in the morning and you're free, you will never say like, this is way too much freedom. This is so inconvenient. Somebody get me out of here and get me into levels of diminishment and slavery. No, you will never say that. What you will say is, wow, this freedom is so expansive. I've never experienced this before. I have to kind of figure things out, but I am so excited and grateful to be able to be given the opportunity to explore so many different opportunities and levels of response to all these different things that can happen. I am so excited. That is what I will end on for today. So excited by these levels of freedom. Anything can happen. Life is amazing. Yeah. So I want to make sure that if people have anything to say or write, I want to make sure that I'm not going to end the recording before then, but I'm about to wrap it up. Cheeky's been pretty patient and good about all this. Okay, gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who is able to be here for the time that I actually recorded this. And thank you so much to everybody who catches this in the archive. And truly, I'm open to any of your questions or comments after the fact, if there's something that you want to know more about or something that you want to share more about. Thank you so much, everyone.